Today, a customer said he's gonna beat me up, all because I didn't give him a discount he wanted when buying Elden Ring, which put me in a situation I honestly never thought I'd ever be in. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk and hit the bell to turn on notifications. Okay, to start things off, I, alongside some other partners, run a used video game store. And just like some other stores of my type, we do the whole buy, sell, and trade aspect that brings a product. However, some people really cling to the whole buy and trade aspect kind of hard. Now, this customer has come in before, but I will only focus on what happened with this situation specifically. He called asking if we got any new PlayStation 4 games, and I told him that we have gotten new ones, but since I was dealing with online business and we get new stuff all the time, I'm not really sure specifically what is new. But just to try and be more helpful, I asked him what he was looking for. I can't remember which game he asked for, but I remember that we didn't have it. But when I told him this, he literally asked me to go through our entire PlayStation 4 stock, and I told him, hey, I've got other customers in the store and I can't really do that. But once I said this, he literally said, "You're a liar. You're not busy right now. You're making that up." He then goes on to say that he's a store owner too and begins telling me that from store owner to store owner, I'm being apparently unprofessional. Now, I don't know how he thinks he knew I wasn't busy. I mean, that was really strange, but he then said he will check our website to see what we have. So literally minutes after hanging up, he called again and said to me that he saw we had Elden Ring and asked if it was still $30. I then told him to let me check real quick just to make sure because our website has allowed orders that it shouldn't, so I didn't want to make a mistake again. But after I verified that we had it, he then said he wants to sell back 2 games he bought from us, which I happily consider that in the cost of what he was trying to get. So I bumped it up, but it still ended up being about $14. Well, when I told him that amount, he then said, well, I've got $6 in in-store credit. I then told him okay, well, with the math and with tax, it's still gonna add up to about $10 or something like that. And when I said this, he got super annoyed with me. He was clearly trying to get a free game. He then offered to trade in another game, but I said to him, hey, we can only offer you $5 for it, meaning that the leftover balance for this game he wanted is only going to be $5 if everything went through the way he wanted it. So after all that of considering the games and the in-store credit, as well as trading in another game worth maybe $5, he then began getting even more annoyed. He told us that the trade-ins are his best offer, and we should apparently lower the price so he could get it. Then he tried to claim that, hey, you've lowered prices for me before, but it's honestly, I'm not sure if what he said was true, but we don't just lower prices for no reason. That is not how we work here. But needless to say, he was getting more agitated by the second, and eventually just tells us that he's not trying to spend any money. And after some attempts to get us to lower our prices, he then went in a completely different direction, asking if we had God of War for the PlayStation 4, citing that our website said we had it. Well, I checked and I said, yeah, we do. And so with that, he asked if he could trade the first 2 games for it. So I told him, hey, we could do that, man. But there is still going to be a difference towards what you need to pay and what is being covered by the games you're trading in. Well, at this point, things really started to pop off, as he started talking over me, and despite me trying to explain what was going on, he just kept getting more and more angry. In fact, he got so angry saying, "You're pissing me off," saying that he's not going to mess with my store anymore, but instead he's going to come down to my store and mess me up. And that was incredibly shocking. At this point, I did call the non-emergency police line to report what happened, and I was told that I would be getting a call from an officer, but that didn't happen. But guess what? Instead, this guy came in. Now, at this point, my partner talked to him, and the customer apologized, and even said that his mom told him that the way he acted was very wrong. Mind you, this is a grown adult too, by the way. It's important to note also that for my store, we really try not to kick people out. In fact, we have very thick skin. So my partner told him, hey, that last part will not be tolerated again. We have only ever kicked 2 people out of the store for extreme reasons. Eventually, he did trade those games and got God of War, and even admitted he understood the store credit stuff, and just claimed that he was having a bad day. Eventually, hours later, an officer did arrive to ask about the situation, but nothing ever came of that. But this scenario overall was incredibly sketchy, and I'm just glad nothing bad happened. Okay, I gotta put on my angry "you're the jerk" hat real quick because holy crap, what is going on right now? You mean to tell me this guy can threaten violence against you and you're just gonna be okay with that? Claiming that you're not gonna kick him out because you have thick skin? Dude, what are you talking about? You're not only putting yourself at risk, but you're also encouraging this crappy behavior. You're incentivizing this guy to say, hey, you can get what you want even if you say you're gonna beat us up. I'm not a store owner, but I know for a fact if I did own a business and this guy talked to me like that or one of my coworkers like that, they would would be super banned from my store. They would never be welcome back. Like, what are you doing? I'm kind of blown away that you're not putting your foot down and saying, no, you cannot come back. Because this is unacceptable, guys. Like, come on now. You really are going to tolerate threats of violence over video game merchandise? Like, dude, this guy should have been like trespassed the second he came in. There's no way this is appropriate or even close to good business. Like, seriously, leave a comment down below. Am I alone in this? If a customer really threatened violence against you, would you just let that slide? I wouldn't. There's no way I would ever let that slide for a second. I wouldn't care about an apology from him or his mom or anybody. You cannot get away with that. That is so crazy. Because guess what? He now knows that your business will tolerate it. He knows that if he doesn't get his way, he can just pull this crap again. So yeah, dude, I think you made a huge mistake by letting him back in. In fact, I think it's a huge mistake you didn't press charges. This is absolutely not okay. And I'm honestly just blown away that you let it happen. I just can't get over that, and I think that's a massive mistake. If you want to submit your own stories, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit. We read your stories all the time. I'm constantly perusing those. I'm always trying to find like those little diamonds in the rough where it's like, ooh, that's a good one. Like if you've got a cool, funny experience or something dramatic and epic, like please share it with us. I want to read it. I want to enjoy it. I want to share with the audience that we have of beautiful, creative, lovely people. And speaking of beautiful, creative, lovely people, today I found out that some of you guys listen to the podcast while you're drawing. Big shout out to Nail Guru. Dude, I cannot draw to save my life. There are children who are better artists than I am, dude. Like, I am so jealous of anybody who can draw, so like, honestly, good for you, man. And thank you so much for watching. We love and appreciate you. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already. Check out Am I the Genius in the description. And without further ado, let's get back to the video and on to the next story. Today, I got some petty revenge at a charity auction by outbidding a guy who was trying to literally buy up everything, as he had spent most of his time at this event literally just outbidding everybody constantly. So I decided to get some petty revenge by outplaying him in the funniest way possible. And honestly, I don't regret it, and I would do it all over again if given the chance. Here's what happened. Okay, first off, this is incredibly stupid and petty, but here we are anyways. I was at a charity auction for a very niche world this past weekend, and yeah, I'm keeping things vague as it is such a niche world that I'm in, and the mood of these events is always jovial, brash, loud, and fun. Everybody's having a good time. There's a live auction with a simultaneous silent auction that ends a few minutes after the live one. It's a positive, almost celebratory atmosphere. Well, one of the well-known figures in this little world was bidding on what seemed like half the silent auction items. And for the sake of the story, we'll call him Steve. He always upbids by like just the minimum of $1, and it felt like he was impossibly everywhere. Items were on tables lining a large banquet hall, so it's not just one central location. There was one fun themed like home decor item that I loved, and I had bid on it a few times, and I was just keeping an eye on it. When I went to update my bid at one point, a woman was standing in front of it with Steve standing next to him. She immediately upped my bid and then stood with her hands on the table in front of it, blocking it almost like a dog guarding a toy. And it's like, okay, whatever. I then playfully say something like, oh, you must really want it. I think I see your name everywhere. It's almost like, oh, just give up if you see Steve's name. And that's when Steve says to me, yeah, I have 3 people out there watching the tables and bidding for me. And it's like, okay, this is blatantly against the rules. You can't guard any items, but I'm a nobody to this dude bro somebody in this world, so whatever. I then say to him, well, should I even bother to try and bid on it anymore? And Steve condescendingly says, oh, you can, but I'll just outbid you again. And it's like, okay, jerk, I see you. Whatever, you can have this cool thing if your ego really needs it that badly. And at this point, I just walked away. At the end of the live auction, they announced it was the final 60 seconds for bids, and I noticed Steve was not near said cool item, so I sped over to the table and excitedly placed my bid. Then I realized the nearby woman, who was different this time, was one of Steve's assigned bidders, and she immediately just outbid me. During those 30 seconds as she wrote the bid, I asked her, oh, you're bidding for Steve again? And she said, yeah. And she actually looked apologetic and embarrassed. Figuring, well, let's just make this a sporting kind of thing, I then asked her, well, what do you have for a top bid? But she responded, oh no, he just told me to be sure to win. And it's like, oh, okay, cool, I guess. Well, she happened to finish writing her bid and set the paper down just as the auctioneer started counting down the last 10 seconds. And it was here that I decided to get some very petty revenge. Because guess what? I immediately snatched up the paper and placed the winning bid with 1 second to spare, shamelessly throwing up my arms in victory. Now, he may have outbid me, but guess what? I absolutely outplayed him. And sure, I felt a little bit bad for the woman not doing what he'd impressed upon her to do. But honestly, suck it, Steve. It's mine. Oh, and it looks awesome in my house, so I don't regret doing this for a second. Yeah, that's really weird. Imagine being a somebody in this like corporate world that the original poster is describing. And when you go to a corporate event, instead of just being nice to everybody, you decide, oh, now's my chance to be a jerk. I'm going to outbid everybody and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's like, dude, what are we doing? No one cares about this. This is literally all for charity. You could probably buy the stuff that you're trying to bid for at any store, pretty much anywhere, and get it for a lot cheaper. And this guy was having people run around and be like, oh, you need to bid for me. It's like, dude, get a life. What are we talking about? So dude, I love the fact that you got him at the last second. That is hilarious to me. You can't stop him at the other items, but you can stop him at the one you wanted. And from the sounds of it, it seems like this guy really needs to be humbled, and I love the fact that you pulled this off. Am I the jerk for no longer wanting to cook for my grandfather or pretty much anybody ever again? Because anytime I do, he either complains about it or I'm just taken advantage of for the food that I cooked. And at this point, I'm done, I'm incredibly pissed off, and I'm just not sure if I'm making a mistake or not. Here's what's going on. I'm an 18-year-old male and I recently realized that I actually love cooking. It's become one of my favorite hobbies. I like learning new recipes, challenging myself to make meals from scratch, and seeing how much better I get every time I cook. It's honestly relaxing for me and I take pride in it. Now, the problem is that cooking at my grandfather's house has never been completely enjoyable simply because he is completely overly critical. He'll complain that the kitchen is messy while I'm literally still in the middle of cooking. Like that's not a normal part of the process. Pots and pans and mixing bowls and ingredients and some utensils are going to be out while someone's making a meal, dude. The thing that annoys me is that I always clean up after myself before I'm done, but he still manages to complain about something every single time I cook. And it's gotten to the point where it takes a lot of the fun out of something I genuinely enjoy. On top of that, I already don't like one of my grandfather's relatives who comes over all the time. And honestly, I don't even know exactly how she's related to us. She's crossed my boundaries more than once. For example, I don't like being touched, but she would constantly hug all over me even though I've made it very obvious that I'm uncomfortable with it. She also used to come over while I was taking naps and beat on my bedroom door incredibly loud until I answered. And mind you, it didn't matter if I told her that I'd been sleeping. She would still just keep standing there talking anyways. She doesn't really do that much anymore, but it's part of the reason I never cared for her in the first place. Now, another reason I don't like her is because of something my mom told me. Apparently, years before I was born, she and my grandfather worked together in the police department. And according to my mom, one time this woman got drunk and started complaining about her current boyfriend, who also happens to be one of my grandfather's friends. And while she was drunk, she said to my mom, "Me and your dad can get down like we used to when we worked at the police department." And mind you, I wasn't there, so I don't really know what actually happened between them. But ever since my mom told me that, I've wondered if they had some kind of affair while my grandmother was still alive. Whether that's true or not, hearing that definitely didn't make me like her any more than I already didn't. I also suspect that she snooped around my grandfather's house before, but I don't have proof of that yet, so I haven't brought it up yet. Anyways, yesterday I spent hours making a full meal from scratch. I made baked mac and cheese, oxtails, rice, sweet potatoes, greens, and cornbread. It wasn't some quick dinner either. It took a lot of time, a lot of effort, and some money too. And I was really proud of how everything turned out. We ate some of it that night, but there was still a lot left over for the next day. Well, today, this lady came over. She hadn't eaten yet, so she made herself a plate. And I didn't have a problem with that. I mean, if you're hungry, go ahead and eat. But what really irritated me was what happened after that. Once she finished eating, she went back into the kitchen and made herself another plate to take home. Now, between the plate that she ate and the plate she packed up, she took a huge piece of cornbread, basically all of the greens, left only a little corner of the mac and cheese, and left maybe a spoonful of sweet potatoes. And you know what? She probably would have taken the oxtails too if I hadn't told her that they were too spicy. And I only told her that because I had a feeling that she'd clean those out as well. By the time she walked out the door, she had basically cleaned out almost everything I had spent hours cooking the day before. After she left, I told my grandfather that next time she comes over, he needs to tell her not to take almost all the food. And his response was basically that, oh, she didn't do that. The problem is my mom was standing right there watching the whole thing happen, and she told him the exact same thing as I did, because she absolutely did take like almost everything. And that was honestly my breaking point. Between my grandfather constantly criticizing me every time I cook, someone coming over and practically cleaning out all of the leftovers from a meal I spent hours making, and then being told that it basically didn't happen, I honestly just don't feel like cooking for this house anymore. If I'm going to spend that much time, effort, and money making food, I'd rather cook for myself or for people who actually appreciate it instead of treating it like a free grocery store. So I've decided I'm done cooking for everyone here. If I cook again, it'll be for myself or for people I actually want to cook for. So am I the jerk if I decide to follow through with this? Because I'm super pissed off and I just don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk. These people suck. Your grandfather's an idiot, his friend's an idiot, and the fact that you know they slept together while like they were working at the police department is already way too much information. Like, holy crap, take a step back. I do not want to know any of that information. Like, good lord. So yeah, dude, I don't know if you live with these people or not, but if you don't live with your grandfather, then congratulations, don't ever cook at his house again. If he wants some home cooking, he can order a pizza or get some Chinese food or whatever he wants, but it's not going to come from your hard work. Screw that. Because clearly they're just going to take advantage of that. And I just don't know about you, but if I put that much work into cooking something and then someone completely just disrespects me and takes all of it, then I would probably never cook for them again. And I think that's exactly what you should do. My parents have been incredibly restrictive about my job search, as they've been hypercritical about the kind of jobs that I'm going for, putting me in a scenario where I really just don't know what to do anymore. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 24-year-old female and I currently have a dilemma with my parents. And as the title says, my parents are always restrictive about the jobs I should get. I've recently finished my degree this year, and every time I try to apply for a job, they will nitpick everything, like how far it is and that it's not in my degree level, and that I should pick a job with a higher salary and all this other crap. It's not helping me either because I don't have a car or a driver's license to go there myself. Like, even if I wanted to work at like a simple street vendor near my house, my father won't allow it because he says it's not safe for me as a girl. They always complain that it would be better if I just drove myself and just apply for a job near my house. My mother has already retired, but for some reason she doesn't want to make any kind of effort to send me to an interview or even to a job if I get one. And my father's still working, but he works in another region. If I bring up the fact that they'll always nitpick the jobs or how I don't have a driver's license, it always turns into an argument. Also, I think I should mention that my father is irresponsible with money, and most of the things in the house, like the food, the clothing, and even the cars, they're literally all bought by my mother. So right now I really need some advice because at this point I just don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would probably stop telling them anything about what I'm doing when it comes to like looking for a job. Because what's happening is it sounds like they hear about the jobs you're going for, and then they're like, no, don't go for that one. That's not good enough for you. You can't work that job. You're a girl. And it's like, dude, I need some kind of job to save money. Like, what are we talking about right now? In fact, I will take just about anything to save up and get out of your house. Like, holy crap. Especially when it comes to like getting a driver's license. It really seems like these people are both like unsatisfied with anything you do, but they're also not helping at all when it comes to moving you forward with your life. And it's like, dude, what do you want from me? Either help me get a job or help me get my license, or at least like help me move forward, but don't be like, oh no, you can't get a job like that, because that literally helps nobody, dude. Like, the original poster is just going to be stuck in the same situation over and over again. So yeah, I would put them on an information diet. I would just start applying to stuff and find anything local and just start saving money as soon as possible, because chances are your parents aren't even going to see you. Your dad works in what I'm assuming is like another city, and your mom's at home retired doing literally nothing. So in my opinion, I say work wherever you want, save up money, and get out of there, because your parents are being super controlling, and that is very unfair for you. Am I the jerk for wiping my old Roku TV that I left at my parents' house just so my family can't use my account anymore? Because after I did this, they got super pissed, especially my mom, who basically called me every name under the sun. And at this point, I'm not sure if I made a mistake, and I just don't know what to do moving forward. Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, I'm a teenager, and I've recently moved away from my mother's house because she was awful. She had a toxic nature to herself, and currently I'm living with my grandparents. Recently, I noticed on my new Roku TV at my grandparents' house that I was seeing some weird recommendations that were absolutely not anything I wanted to watch. We're talking like true crime slop and police shows and baby shows and stuff like that. Also, when I signed into my Fandango account and a couple of other ones, I saw that my family had been watching the same crap on my own personal account. Now, when I saw this, that really pissed me off, so I called my mother to tell her to sign out of my accounts. Well, being the person that she is, she began to get mad at me and act like I was being some kind of jerk, all because I didn't want to see crap like Bluey or Paw Patrol or Law and Order or Tyler Perry movies on my Roku. I decided to unlink the Roku from my account anyways, whether they liked it or not, but I guess they found some way to sign back in, because when I came back to her house a month later for a few days stay, it was on my account again. Now, the reason why I'm so peeved about my family using my Roku account is because seriously, I have some personal stuff on there. My family is black conservative, and they're very much against the LGBTQ community, and my Roku save list, along with my personal streaming accounts and some art in my photo stream, contains queer content that, guess what, they absolutely would not approve of me watching. Besides that, many of the movies on my account are like scary movies or adult animation, many of which may contain some sketchy stuff that they're not gonna like, and I most definitely do not want my little brother, who's 1 year old, to even potentially see any of this on accident, just because my mother decided decided to turn on some random cartoon on the list. So about a month later, when I got the chance to be at their house again for a few days, in the early morning when nobody was up, I went over, I took control of the old TV, and I removed my account from the device again, completely wiping it clean. Everything was moved back to default settings and the apps were completely removed. But when they woke up and flipped on the old TV, they were pissed. My mother screamed at me and called me a greedy dog, saying I only cared about myself and I didn't love my family at all because according to her, I was such an ungrateful, rude, spoiled brat. She's also banned me from ever using the old TV again. I mean, it's not like I even wanted to, and even forced me to say sorry to my stepdad, who would watch movies and shows on there at night. Now, I know it's a really crappy thing to do right at the crack of dawn, but I feel like in any other scenario, my mother would have just gotten mad at me once again. So am I the jerk for doing all of this without my family's permission? Because at this point, I just don't know what to do. Okay, dude, from the sounds of it, it seems like you've got some spicy content on your accounts there. And in that regard, bro, I do not blame you for being like, hey, I cannot have any of you watching my stuff. In fact, don't even look at my account. You got to get your own account. And also, like, dude, just get your own account. If this is some kind of like paid service, you know for a fact they're taking advantage of you. But if this is an unpaid service where it's like, yeah, you don't have to pay for anything, it's a free sign up and they could literally do it themselves. Like, if that's the case, then holy crap, these people suck. They're annoying, they're being really weird, and they're honestly just like lazy people, dude. Just sign up with your own account. So no, you're not the jerk. This only makes sense in my opinion. And I think them getting angry and mad over this and forcing you like to apologize is incredibly weird and kind of proves your point that yeah, your mom is toxic and I don't blame you for moving out. An entitled Karen straight out of the depths of Walmart freaks out when she doesn't get her way, demanding that these incompetent employees bend to her every whim. But karma comes right back around and puts this entitled Karen right in her place, leaving this Karen absolutely dumbfounded. Here's what happened. So for context, the lines were extra long at Walmart today, and they only had half the registers open. They decided to open up another express line just so they could get the crowds moving just a little bit more. This entitled Karen with an overflowing cart sees this and seizes the opportunity, rushing straight into that line. Keep in mind, this line is 20 items or less, and she has way more than that. The employee trying to wrangle the crowd and trying to direct shoppers towards express, regular, and self-service lanes tries really hard to get this entitled Karen into the regular line, or at least to self-serve. But this entitled Karen huffed and puffed in the way that a typical Karen does when they don't get exactly what they want. So in an effort to avoid a fight, the employee just lets it go, while also giving me a warning gaze, basically saying things are about to pop off. When this entitled Karen gets up to the cash register and starts literally dumping her stuff all over the belt, while loudly mumbling about all the incompetent employees, the cashier gently but firmly tells her that she cannot go through this lane with a cart full of groceries, and that this lane is 20 items or less. And as I'm sure you could have guessed, an argument with this entitled Karen ensues, and she is simply not having it. She starts screaming, demanding to be seen right now, as she already put all of her stuff onto the cart. She tries to claim that the cashier has to check her out, or she could lose her stupid little job. She was trying to flip the script and hold this employee's job over their head. She went on for about 10 minutes longer while the line is building up behind her. The cashier in this situation though is as cool as a cucumber and isn't bothered by this Karen. And to top it all off, they did not budge, stating that this entitled Karen could not go through this line with that many items, and that she is welcome to join one of the non-express lines, while also gently reminding her that the express line is just that, to let people with a few items get through faster. That way lines don't build up. But the entitled Karen only gets more angry as she continues to argue. She's now demanding in an aggressive manner that the rest of the people in the line go to another cashier so that this cashier can help her specifically with all 100 items that she has. She even seriously tried to claim that that would be quicker, even though that would be at everyone else's expense. Off to the side, a manager who was watching all this go down does just that. They jump into an open register and tells the people in the line that she can assist them. The manager shoots the cashier a knowing look, and that is where some beautiful malicious compliance started to take place. The entitled Karen is looking smug and superior at this point, thinking that she won and got the better of these employees, but she honestly couldn't be more wrong. As soon as the manager opens the other register, the cashier tells the Karen, "I'm sorry ma'am, I'm on break. This aisle's closed. Please feel free to join the non-express lines." And this is when the entitled Karen loses it. The entitled Karen starts screaming at the manager, who just opened up the lane, demanding that they make this cashier check her out. But the manager turns around and says says no, she is on break. Please feel free to use one of the non-express lines. At this point, the entitled Karen is absolutely boiling mad. She quickly shovels her stuff back into the cart and actually tries to shove her way up to the front of a new express line. The manager is still cool and says this line is for 20 items and less. I will be unable to assist you. Please feel free to join any non-express line. And at this point, I thought the entitled Karen's head was going to explode. She was absolutely enraged at this point and storms out of the store, leaving her cart behind and screaming about how she will never shop here again and that she will have both of their jobs taken away from them, on top of all these other ridiculous angry claims. But that is honestly not even the best part. In her rage, she forgot her purse in the cart and had to come back just to get it. The manager that was checking people out and put this Karen in her place was one of only 2 managers on duty, and she was still helping the checkout line. And to top it all off, the purse was at the cash register. This manager made this entitled Karen wait in line the entire time just to get her purse back. And when the Karen came up, she didn't say a word, knowing that she looked like an absolute fool. And it was nice to see that sometimes karma really does come through. It is honestly so embarrassing watching some weird entitled Karen freak out in public when everybody and their mother around them knows that they are in the wrong and that the way they're acting is just cringeworthy and toxic. So it's really cool to see that there are still people out there who won't take this kind of garbage sitting down. And this entitled Karen literally had to wait longer, all because she couldn't go to the proper line. If she had literally just gone to the right line, she would have been out of there on time. But at the end of the day, entitled people are gonna be just that. They're gonna be entitled. And in the case of this entitled Walmart Karen, I don't think there's much anybody could do to help her. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for taking revenge on the very people who banned me from multiple Discord servers? So I used to watch a streamer back in 2019. He had a handful of daily viewers, including me. I used to watch his streams regularly and made good bonds with regular viewers. Later, he announced his Discord server, so I joined the server that time, but didn't know how to use Discord. So I just let it be there, but didn't really use it. Fast forward to 2020 and COVID hits, and so there is a quarantine. I spent every day in my house with no friends to meet up with and nothing to do at all. So out of boredom, I opened up Discord. I set up my account and I visited the server, as it was the only server which I had on my list that I joined a year ago at the time. I went on chat channels and messaged. I ended up recognizing some of the people there by their names, as we used to chat on the live chat section of the stream all the time. I also had the same name from the accounts from the platform that we used to watch the streams together on. Therefore, everybody recognized me and greeted me as well. After a while, there comes one person we will call Candace. That's not her real name. Now, she is one of the people that later on went to become the main reason of this story. Let me give you some background. She was 2 years older than me, and she was a senior moderator in the server. I also knew her from the stream. She was very kind and gentle towards me, mainly because I was younger, so I referred to her as my sister. Anyways, I regularly start visiting the server. I'm chatting with the reunited friends that I found again, and it was honestly so fun. I was getting emotionally attached and involved in various activities with everyone there, such as playing games, listening to songs, stuff like that. And this was especially helpful, as there was no one else that lived close by me that I could talk to or have any kind of relation with. So I spent most of my time in that Discord server. I also exchanged a lot of social media handles. Fast forward to about 2 months after being a regular, and before this, I hadn't really talked to the managers or the admins because I didn't feel like I needed to. They also almost never had come online for about 2 months. There were 4 of them. There was Travis, Pony, Lucas, and Buck. It was late night and I was talking to my friends. And at this point, all of my friends from the server were there from the past year and they were acquainted with all of the above people. But since I was new, I didn't really know them that well. Now, the guy I mentioned earlier by the name of Pony was a very short-tempered guy. He just randomly came to chat in invisible mode. For those of you who don't know what invisible mode is, it basically means that you're on an offline status. I didn't know that he was an admin. He then suddenly started trolling me and said to me, "I will ban you," to which I replied to him that he can't ban me because obviously I had no clue that he was one of the admins. Then, just to show that he could, he actually really did ban me. And when that happened, I could not believe it. I just sat there for a minute with my screen black, nothing on it, before I realized what had happened. I DM'd everyone I could. Candace eventually told me to message Travis or Buck, so I reached out to them, and thankfully Travis replied back and unbanned unbanned me. I was so desperate to get back onto the server, not just to see my friends, but also because I had filed an application to be a moderator, and the results were coming out the next day. So I wanted to know if I made the cut. They shortlisted 10 applicants, and they were going to select roughly 4 people based on how active you've been on the server. The next day, I thankfully get selected as a mod, and I was so happy. All the admins, managers, and senior moderators congratulated the new moderators and gave them their roles, explaining to them how things work. I was very happy that day. Fast forward to a couple days later, and a few of my friends, myself and Candace, were casually playing and talking in the chat channel. Candace and I were joking back and forth with one another, and everyone was sarcastically talking about a hypothetical situation. I then see Lucas online. He then comes into the chat and starts typing something I didn't pay attention to as I was just talking to Candace. Then, out of nowhere, I get kicked out of the server again. I honestly couldn't believe it. I rejoined the server, but I was then kicked again. Lucas then says, basically, I'm gonna get kicked again, and then the next time I will be banned permanently. Now, from the time that I had become a moderator up until present day, I had become greatly acquainted with all the administrators. Lucas was about 3 to 4 years older than me, so I had no idea why he just kicked me. A few days later, the same thing happens, and we both break into an argument. We started screaming at each other, and he got very abusive towards me, and by the end of it, he gave me a ban. Later again, I was thankfully unbanned by Buck, as Buck was a kind guy and always was cool-minded. I explained to him the situation, and I asked him if he knew the reason why I was getting kicked and banned, to which he told me that apparently Candace and Lucas were in a relationship. This was all very new information to me, and that honestly explained why he started banning me out of nowhere. After I was unbanned, I explained to Lucas that I see Candace as an older sister, nothing more, and I didn't even know that they were in a relationship, so I apologized to him and said I'm sorry. I thought this might solve things, but he was more furious. He then started to constantly bully me on the server. Now, we had another server owned by Pony, and Pony, despite our confrontation in the past, had become a great friend of mine, or so I thought. So let's call his server P server. After some days, we get a ping from P server to join the server with Pony on voice chat. He said that he was feeling sad and depressed, to which I said, what happened? Nothing more, nothing less. Lucas was suddenly there and began attacking me again, and this time he banned me from the P server. I already had a feeling that this was going to happen, but I felt really bad regardless, and I honestly just couldn't do anything about it. But for some reason, I recorded it. Whenever he used to be online, I started going offline, and it was the best thing for me. And I also stopped talking to Candace too, because whenever I used to talk to her, he used to ban me, and I became so attached to that server that I couldn't leave it. Months go by, and October arrives, and I get the best chance of my life. By this time, I knew how to make a fully functional Discord server with program bots and everything. It was afternoon, and no one was online from staff except me. A content creator who had millions of followings messaged me on Discord to make him a server. He was the owner's friend on the server I was moderating. He asked me if I could build him a server without any delay, to which I replied yes. I also informed Pony, and Pony told Travis. Now, to be honest, this was the worst mistake there. I was excited, as it was the first time talking to a big content creator. So we all joined in and talked to this content creator and discussed about design and the type of server that he wants. After half an hour of discussion with him, we talked about what responsibilities we would take. Travis says that he has exams going on and can't give the time that he would normally give to help out with the server, but he can help out if I need something. Pony also says this too, while also adding that we 3 only have the top role and that we can't share it with anyone else. Now, with all this in mind, I alone have to make the whole server. I didn't give it much in terms of thinking about it, so I just made the server. At first, I thought it would be an easy task, but it ended up taking my whole day creating every channel, as well as setting up bots and programming them to do everything that we needed them to do. So for better context, this new server is going to be called Server 2, and the original one will be called Server 1. In the evening, Travis and Pony view the Discord server, just to show their appreciation, as well as to check up on me here and there, and then just go offline. The next day goes fine, and we invite a couple of friends from Server 1 to Server 2. We also appoint some mods to moderate everything that's going to go on in this server. The server wasn't made official yet. Lucas comes to, and he was clearly jealous and angry when he saw me at the top. He ended up messaging Travis and Pony and wanted to talk to them in private. As a result, they gave him managing permission permissions on the server, but at the time I didn't care because he couldn't bully me here. I was very happy because now it was like me staying at the top and no one could bully me no matter what. But I was mistaken because the worst thing that could happen absolutely did happen the next day. I woke up to find my top role wasn't there. Lucas was given the administrative role, and Travis, Pony, or even the owner of the server would not respond to any of my messages related to this. Travis and Pony then took credit for making the entire server when the server was finally announced. And once again, I was suddenly a nobody. I broke into this massive argument with Pony, Travis, and Lucas because they stole my credit and my roles. As a result, they banned me from all the mutual servers that we had. Server 1, Server 2, all of it. I was taken from everything. I felt broken, and I didn't even think this would happen. I uninstalled Discord because there was no point in keeping it. But little did I know that revenge would be right around the corner. 7 months later, and I'm still not on Discord. But after I got a new device for a gift, I decided to take my revenge on them. I had to wait because they had the IP of my old device, so they could know from any account that it was me on an alternate account. So after receiving the new device, I made a new account, and I ended up entering this new server and talked to everyone. And honestly, most of the things had changed. I made myself a fake personality, I gave myself a fake birthday, and I even gave myself a fake full name. Later on, I spent 1.5 months gaining their trust. I made another server on the side, and I filled it with proof of their activities. And I caught them red-handed participating in piracy and some other stuff, but the owner didn't know about any of this, as he very rarely visited this server. I spent another 15 days trying to get mod, and you know what? I ended up getting it. After that, I soon arranged events on the server for which they promoted me into a manager. Everything was slowly lining up exactly how I would want it to go, because later on I also became an admin. So now I had the golden opportunity as I got in touch with the owner of the new server, the one that I was approached about specifically, the one that I had worked on so hard just to try and get it up and running, the one where my credit was taken away and I was banned from. I talked to this owner and I told him exactly what was going on. I told him about the piracy that was happening on his server, and I also told him about all the other nefarious activities that they've been going into. I then sent him proof that I had been gathering, and this owner told me to take whatever action necessary to get them out of the server. So, in a beautiful fit of revenge, Pony, Travis, and Lucas were all removed and banned from that server. And to top it all off, the owner of the original server where they bullied me had been deleted. So now they didn't have anywhere left to go. And to this day, they still don't know that I'm the same guy that they used to bully. But it begs the question, am I the jerk for going to such lengths just to get revenge on these guys for treating me so poorly for so long? I don't think you're the jerk in this situation. They were legitimately doing something wrong, and they were just all around really nasty people. I'm truly surprised that you didn't just make your own account sooner and invite your own friends over to your server. It's really unfair for them to treat you like that, and I don't blame you for being upset and deciding to take action. Because at the end of the day, they got exactly what was coming to them. Because people like that shouldn't expect to treat people like garbage and think for a second that they can get away with it. Am I the jerk for choosing not to leave a tip for the first time in my life? So this happened today. I'm a server at a busy downtown restaurant, and I usually have time to make some coffee at home before work. Yeah, I could drink the coffee at work, but I like what I have at home a lot better than what we have at the restaurant. It's just a personal preference. It's what got me through undergrad alive. So the brand I have at home forever has my allegiance. Today, making a fresh pot at home just wasn't going to happen because I slightly mismanaged my time, had to do a company meeting thing with some higher ups, and also squeeze in a vet visit for my new kitten before work. Needless to say, time got a little tight, so I ended up heading into my shift entirely uncaffeinated, which is no worries. While I don't particularly love energy drinks, I figured I'd just pop across the street and grab a yerba mate at the corner store. I do so, and when I check out, it's with one of those mini iPads with a card reader. I get my yerba and a pack of smokes for after work, and when I put my card into the reader, it automatically prompts me to leave either 15, 20, or 25% tip. Now, I'm almost 36 years old, and my income has been primarily dependent upon tips for basically the entirety of my adult life. I understand this, and I strive to pay it forward. I start at 40% in a full service setting and only go down if you mess up colossally. But even then, it literally takes outright abuse for me to go anywhere below 25%. I tip 20% on takeout, and I tip 25% on delivery. I mean, I even almost always throw a person working the window at Taco Taco Bell or Cookout a 5 just for being open when I want to eat some garbage after work. This was the first time and the only time in my entire life where my whole being went, "What, are you kidding me?" when being asked to give a tip. Now, thankfully, the guy working the register sighed and reached over to hit the custom tip button and then hit 0. He looked at me and sighed, "Sorry about that. We just got this like 2 days ago and the owners haven't figured out how to disable that step yet." I just gave out a shrug and said, "Nah, it's all good, man." But even with that in mind, boy did I get pissed off for a second. Because for a second there, I honestly thought that this bodega had the audacity to ask for a tip just for ringing up a yerba mate and a pack of smokes. So yeah, technically that's the only time I've ever been given the option to leave a tip and was totally fine with it being 0. I'm with the original poster on this one. I absolutely will not give a tip if it's just the cashier doing their job. Like, there's literally no point. If someone delivered food to me or if they had somehow been serving me when I came into their restaurant, that's a whole nother situation. But for just getting a simple order at a convenience store, there's no way I'm leaving a tip for that. Sorry, that's just not happening in my opinion. And worst of all, some of these places can then guilt trip you if you don't leave a tip. So in my opinion, the original poster is not a jerk, because I would have done the exact same thing. But what do you think? Leave a comment down below. Do you give a tip to every person that you see who does customer service? Or are you more selective, kind of like the original poster? Let us know down below. An entitled Karen tries to get my mom kicked out of Disney World, claiming that the service dog she has with her is fake and that she is faking her disability. Here's what happened. So here's a little bit of background information. My mom has anxiety issues. So to help with that, we got a dog, a tiny little Maltese, and he is the cutest little angel you'll ever see. Now this Maltese is also a service dog, so he can go anywhere that my mom goes. But you can believe that a lot of people ask questions about him because he is so small, and most service dogs are typically huge German Shepherds. And no, we are not cheating the system. My mom really just does not do well in crowds, so we do need this dog to help her in her day-to-day activities. So to set the scene, we just got into Disney World, and we're in the France Epcot Pavilion, and we are all having a really good time, even my mom. But all that changes once the entitled Karen shows up, and all the while, my dog starts to growl. It's like he knows what's about to happen. This entitled Karen walks up and says, "What a nice dog." My mom gets startled by her, but she composes herself and says, "Oh, why thank you." But before she could go any further, this entitled Karen cut her off and said, "How were you able to get into the park?" My mom looked at this lady confused, not sure what she was referring to, but then she caught on and said, "Oh, he's a service dog." And when this entitled Karen heard this, she went in on my mom. She said, "Stop lying. A dog that size can't possibly be a service animal." And at this point, this entitled Karen got really aggressive. So I stepped in and told this lady to back off. This Karen responded by saying, "How dare you insult me like that? I had to leave my poor dog at home while you forge whatever papers you need to cheat the system." And while this entitled Karen is saying this, I'm just thinking to myself, how dumb can this lady get? You can't forge documents like that. My mom looks at her and says, "Look, we're just trying to have a good time at Disney World. Please leave us alone." But this entitled Karen is not having it, because that's when she freaks out. She says, "That's it. I'm tired of you. I'm gonna call security." And at this point, I was done with this entitled Karen. So I said to her, "Go ahead. I'm tired of you harassing us." Thankfully, there was a cast member nearby, and she overheard all that was going on. She came up to see if there was any kind of problem, but this entitled Karen jumps in and claims that my mom is faking a disability just so she can get her dog into Disney World. She then demands that we get kicked out of the park. But here's where things take an interesting twist, because my family knows this cast member that just came up to us, and that's all because my sister is in the Disney College program, and she works at a Journey into Imagination. So the cast member puts 2 and 2 together and calmly says, "Ma'am, this lady's dog is none of your business. And if it were, I know for a fact that he is a real service dog." After hearing this, the entitled Karen is fuming and on the verge of hyperventilating. So at that point, she demands to see a manager. The cast member responds by saying, "Ma'am, I'm the coordinator of this ride, and if you keep this up, I will call security to have them kick you out of the park." Thankfully and finally, this entitled Karen realizes that she won't win this argument. So she huffs and puffs and storms off, just like the entitled typical Karen that she really is. What a lucky turn of events. The chances of the cast member being somebody that you know personally is a wonderful stroke of luck, because I can only imagine the weird tale this entitled Karen would tell just to try and get you and your family in trouble. So good for you for standing up for your mom and not allowing this this person to walk all over her. And hopefully next time this entitled Karen will learn that you can't treat people like this and expect to get away with it. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my sister's friend that the cat she gave me to my family and I isn't hers anymore? Here's what happened. It all started on a normal Sunday night. Football, family, and fun were in the works. While I was watching a game, my sister knocks on my door, and considering how annoying my sister usually was with me, I didn't want to hear anything she had to say. Eventually, I caved, and I went to check what she wanted. Thank goodness I did, because I was very pleasantly surprised to see that she was holding a tiny cat in her arms. She was so adorable. We named her Luna, because that was the name that the previous owner had given her. She was very playful, and even though for the first little bit of time, her and my other cat, Alex, kept fighting, they eventually got along. Enter my sister's friend. To be respectful, we'll call her Miley. That's not her real name. Miley was the one who gave us the cat and was one of my sister's better friends. Well, kind of. So the next night, on my sister's birthday, she continuously takes Luna and Alex outside to show her off to her friends. And before you know it, both cats end up being lost. I go in on my sister and her friends for losing our two cats. Like, no, I was really angry. I'm a huge cat person, and knowing that they may have run away made me very sad. But thankfully, the two little munchkins came back. I asked Miley how she lost Luna, and then proceeded to get upset when I referred to Luna as our cat. She started to talk about how it was her cat, and the only reason that she couldn't keep it was because of the fact that she had 3 pit bulls in her house, and she didn't want Luna to get hurt. So I apologized to her for yelling, and then I tell her that she's allowed to see Luna whenever she wants. Well, fast forward to that following Friday, my sister takes Luna out again and goes somewhere with Miley and another one of my friends. Meanwhile, I go to the store for my dad, and when I get back, I'm hoping to see Luna back in the house. As you would guess, I was severely mistaken. After about another 10 to 15 minutes that go by, I see Miley and my friend, with Luna being in Miley's arms. My sister was nowhere in sight, and now at this point, I'm upset. I told Miley to put Luna back in the house because I don't want Luna to get lost and then run away. And wouldn't you know it, she talks about how it's her cat, how she had no choice but to give her away. And now I'm just really angry. I find it within me to remain calm, and I proceed to tell Miley that Luna was not hers anymore, since we were the ones who were feeding it, cleaning out the box, and loving it like a newborn baby. Luna eventually goes back inside and starts to relax. Miley was very upset with me. I tell her that she's still allowed to see Luna whenever she wants to, and tried to make her feel better. 1 month later, Luna is living a happy life. My family and I take good care of her, and Miley comes over most days to see Luna. Her and Alex play together all the time, but this still begs the question, am I the jerk for telling my sister's friend that the cat she gave to my family and I wasn't hers anymore? You are absolutely not the jerk. Sure, the cat was theirs to begin with, but they gave it up, and you are the one taking care of it. You're cleaning its box, you're loving it, you're feeding it, and you're honestly stepping up to the plate and taking care of this cat. So that, in my opinion, definitely means that you own this cat. It's yours, and it's not your friend Miley's. And it's not fair for her to assume, oh, it's my cat, I can do what I want. If it was really her cat, she would still have it. Instead, she shipped it off to you. So now she's treating you like a babysitting service with some kind of ownership over it. But in my opinion, that's just wrong. So good for you for putting your foot down and saying, sorry, this cat is not yours anymore. Because clearly, you are way more responsible with that cat than Miley ever was. And that, in my opinion, is the mark of a good owner. An entitled customer gets aggressive with me and calls me horrible names while harassing me because I'm not from his country. So as a result, I end up kicking him out of the restaurant that I work at. Here's what happened. So even though I'm young, I managed to get a job as a server at a restaurant in my city center a few months ago. I live in England now, but I am not originally English. I moved with my family when I was just 10 years old. So on this one night, I was given the pleasure of looking after a family of 6 people. There was a man and a woman who I think was his fiance and 4 kids. As usual, I came over and spoke my piece, saying my name and that I would be taking care of them and so on. But I didn't even get to finish because this man stopped me to ask me where I'm from. I get this question a lot, so I told him that I'm originally from Finland. He said to me, well, you are going to be easy to understand, aren't you, pal? Naturally, I asked him what he meant by that, and he got up and said straight into my ear, I thought waiters in England were meant to understand English, pal. And I honestly could not believe he was acting like that. I left for a few minutes to let them decide what drinks they wanted, but also just to try and digest what he just said. It was quite busy, so to save time, time, I decided that I would take main orders too. When it got round to this woman, who was a lot nicer than the man, she asked me for my recommendations. I did my best to tell her, except this man kept asking random questions as soon as I said anything, so it lasted so much longer than it needed to. I brought them their main courses maybe half an hour later. About 5 minutes afterwards, I came back round to ask if everything was okay. This man put his hand out in front of me to stop me, stared at me and said, "No, friend, it isn't. My lasagna is cold, like Finland in the winter." And after he said that, I just apologized and took it away. Not even 5 minutes later, I brought him a new lasagna, which had been checked by multiple people who all confirmed that it was hot. But when I brought the man his food, the first thing he did was stick his finger through the lasagna, grab my hand, and cover my hand in it. He then said, "Do you see? Cold like the Finnish winter. Sort it out." That night was the first time that I kicked anybody out of the restaurant. I was so annoyed with him that I told him to gather his things and get out. He stood up, got in my face, and we got into an argument about it. I tried to keep things down so we didn't disturb anybody else. Eventually, the woman managed to get him to leave. On his way out, he gave me the finger, and I think he might have said something else, but I did not hear it, thankfully. Some people can honestly just be horrible. That guy was such a jerk. Not only was he being weird about the fact that you're from Finland, but it's like he almost came into that restaurant ready to have a fight. I mean, people like that drive me nuts. You have nothing to prove and you're just being weird. So good for you for standing up for yourself and not taking this lying down, because nobody should ever be treated like that regardless of where you come from. My boyfriend is not tall enough to my liking, and I honestly wish there was such a bigger height difference between the two of us, and I don't know what to do. So I'm a 24-year-old female and I'm 5'6", and my boyfriend is 5'10". So there's about 4 inches between us, and I hate it. I've always wished I was shorter, and now I'm with someone who I'm barely shorter than, and there's nothing I could do about it. I just want to feel small and dainty and cute, but I don't feel like that at all with him usually. I feel like everywhere I look, I see couples where the girl is so much shorter, and it's just making me increasingly frustrated. I don't know how to get over it. It also doesn't help that he seems to not really care, so he often slouches, and in photos he leans down a bit, making it look like there's only like 2 to 3 inches between us. Granted, it's good that he doesn't seem to mind, but at the same time, I can't help but feel that he's doing it on purpose. His last girlfriend was a whole head shorter than him, and it makes me feel extremely insecure because I just feel like he probably used to think she was cute for being so short, and he can't think that way because I'm too tall. I know I should just be happy that he's taller than me at all, but it also bugs me that when I wear heels, we're the same height. I see girls wearing 4 to 5 inch heels and still so much shorter than their boyfriend, and it makes me feel so incredibly jealous. I feel like I would do anything to even just be like 5'4", and it literally makes me so upset that there's nothing I can do about it at all, and I just have to live with this. I know some people might think I'm crazy for this, but I really like feeling small, and I like who I'm with to be so much bigger than me, and that's never going to happen here. I feel like it doesn't help that I'm also older than him, and I'm a bit chubby, whereas he's kinda skinny. This is someone I want to be with forever, so I don't want to break up over me being insecure about something that shouldn't matter. How do I get over this? I wish there was just a button that I could press that would make me stop caring, because I've been trying really hard the past couple of months to not care, and sometimes I feel like I don't, but then I keep going back to caring again. What should I do? This is a really strange situation. I mean, I've definitely heard that some women have a preference where they really want their boyfriend to be bigger than them, but in my opinion, this is taking it to the extreme. Like, you're obsessing over such a small detail about someone that you're supposed to love, right? You and your boyfriend cannot change your height. What you have is what you got. It is what it is. So there's honestly not much you can do in this department physically, and this doesn't sound like this is an issue for your boyfriend at all. He still loves you and wants to be with you from the sounds of it, but you on the other hand are thinking about breaking up with him, and that honestly sounds like a terrible decision. Like, you're literally breaking up with him because he's not tall enough. Like, what is going on? This is someone you're considering to get married to, but you're quite literally letting your insecurities dictate whether you can or cannot love your boyfriend. So hopefully you can get this figured out, because this definitely sounds like this is a you problem on your end, and the sooner you can get over the fact that you're not as short as you would like to be, the sooner you can get back to loving your boyfriend in the way that I'm sure he loves you. I just found out that my wife has been cheating on me with one of her friends, and I honestly don't know what to do. My wife and I have been struggling for some time. We never made a lot of money, and between the two of us, we're pulling in about $80,000 a year. We are very behind on our bills as well. Collection agencies call our phones constantly. We can barely afford to keep the lights on on, pay our rent, and keep our kids fed and clothed. My wife handles the finances, and I trust her to make payments that we can. Yesterday, my team got a performance bonus at work, and I was given $500. I decided to log in and put it towards our outstanding balance on the electric bill. When I logged in though, I saw no balance owed. This seems strange, so I looked at payment history, and I saw random payments for between $50 to $300 all over the past 3 months that wiped out the balance completely. I know we didn't have that kind of money to spare, so as much as I hate this, I went through my wife's phone while she was sleeping, and it was not good. I saw messages between her and a friend of hers showing that they had been spending some quality time while at work, if you know what I mean. And right when I saw that, I absolutely lost it, and I started screaming at her. She woke up and looked like a deer in the headlights and started crying. She told me she did it for us, and I asked her what she was talking about. She said that she had asked her friend from work for a loan to pay off some creditors. They were friends before we met, but they never dated, just kissed a few times. He said that he knew that she couldn't pay it back, so as payment, he requested that she send him some really sketchy photos, and if she did that, he would help her out. Pretty soon, this escalated to straight up cheating. She swears that she didn't want to, but she saw it as the only way that we'd ever get out from under this. I told her I was going to contact his wife, and she begged me not to. She admitted to me that she was the one who offered to take it to a physical level when he would only give her so much for photos. He said he loved his wife and he wasn't interested. She pushed it until he agreed, and he was so afraid of his marriage blowing up. Eventually, I couldn't even untangle all the details with this story, and I was so upset. So I packed a bag with my clothes and I left. I drove my truck to a hotel parking lot and I slept there. I'm at work now, but I just feel numb inside. I have no family here. My son and my daughter are my life, and my whole world is falling apart. I told a coworker what was going on, and he made a joke about me renting my wife out just to pay the bills. I can't think straight. I'm so angry. I want to scream, cry, and vomit all at the same time. What should I do? This is horrible, because I'm pretty sure your wife is lying. There are so many different ways somebody could try and pay for these bills without resorting to some kind of lady of the night status. This is crazy to me. She could have picked up an extra job. She could have picked up some nighttime work. She could have done a lot of different things, but instead, she decided to spend some quality time with a coworker. And what kind of absolute garbage human being is he to not only suggest that scandalous photos could be payment for what he's gonna pay her, but also to then escalate this to a level where everybody's marriages are now in jeopardy. I mean, what a garbage human being. But in that same vein of thought, your wife went along with it. She's the one that initiated a lot of this, and I would not take that sitting down. So in my opinion, it's time to get your stuff in order. Your wife straight up cheated on you for $500 to pay for the electric bill balance. And I think regardless of what you decide to do, you need to remember that moving forward. $500 was more important than your marriage. So I don't blame you for being upset, and I don't blame you for being angry. If I was in your shoes, I'd be pretty upset too. But hopefully it all works out, regardless of what you decide to do, because you have kids involved with this, and I can only imagine the nightmare they're gonna have to deal with regarding this situation. My coworker just told me that he loves me, and I'm really confused, and I honestly don't know what to do. A very strange thing happened to me yesterday that I don't know how to deal with. Our work team is absolutely great, and I suppose I can say we're friends too. We hang out outside of work a lot. There are 7 of us in total, and we're about the same age. Yesterday, we went for drinks after work, and suddenly it was after midnight, and by the end of the night, there were only 3 of us left. We had maybe 1 too many drinks, and we're discussing various things, including relationships, and I honestly was having a really good time. But suddenly, our coworker, who's about 34, started to say that he's having second doubts about his girlfriend of 10 years, and he was visibly upset. We encouraged him to confide to us, and then he said something that I absolutely did not expect, basically dropping a bomb on this conversation. He turned to me and he said that he had fallen in love with me, and you know what? This was completely out of the blue, so I was obviously taken aback. For context, I also have a boyfriend that I love. We live together, and my coworker actively knows that. I think he regretted immediately that he said it because he started to apologize like 5 minutes after. Today, we have not seen each other, and he hasn't written me anything. I feel like garbage because I care about him as a friend, and I really care about my job, especially the good relationships within the team. Now I'm freaking out about destroying them. The other thing that I'm scared of is that eventually I will be left with no other choice than to give notice if the atmosphere at work becomes too suffocating. I honestly can't believe that this is happening. Just to clarify, clarify, at work, he's the deputy director and kind of indispensable at the company. When it comes to me and my employment, I definitely could leave and there wouldn't be much change. We're going to see each other on Tuesday, so I have 4 days to think about what I'm going to say to him or how I'm going to act. I'm assuming that we'll just act like nothing happened, but I don't know. It seems somehow very toxic overall. I don't know what to do, and I'm honestly at such a loss. I think you're definitely jumping to a lot of extremes here, because I don't think you've destroyed anything. You haven't done anything wrong. He's the one that should probably be freaking out, if anything. He just made things incredibly awkward between himself and the rest of his coworkers, because he confessed his love to you, and it doesn't matter that he was slightly under the influence. He said it out loud and straight to you, and that's just incredibly awkward. In my opinion, pursuing a work relationship of any kind had better be absolutely perfect, otherwise it's just not worth it. But also, this guy knew that you have a boyfriend. Like, he knows that you live with him and you have a long-lasting relationship. So for him to suddenly have the courage to say this is just incredibly toxic in my opinion. Not only because he knows that you're in a relationship, but also he himself is in a 10-year relationship. I think he needs to turn around and work on his own relationship before shopping around with one of his coworkers that maybe he just has a workplace crush on, which is a lot different than having some kind of undying love. So in my opinion, you haven't done anything wrong. He's the one that should be worried. And if I was in your shoes, I would just act normal. You didn't do anything wrong, and I don't think you should be the one to quit just because he made things awkward. I think if anything, just keep it professional. If he mentions the situation, just be like, hey, I want to put this behind us, and I definitely want to move on. Because you're both in relationships and you have no interest in dating this guy. You could even talk to the friend who was also there with you and maybe discuss it with them, see if they know what to do. But regardless, I just would not jump to the conclusion that you need to quit, because this job's important to you. You need to make rent, you need to pay for your bills, all that stuff. And I wouldn't let some weird higher up who confessed his love to you all because his relationship is failing keep you from retaining your job and living your life. An entitled Karen and her boyfriend make fun of my mother because of her physical handicap, causing her to cry in front of everybody. But I stepped in and I got revenge. Here's what happened. So yesterday, my family and I went out for a nice dinner and a trip to the movies. This is something we rarely do, since we live moderately far apart and we all work our own jobs. Our party included my dad, my mom, my sister, and myself. Everything was pretty chill, and we were enjoying ourselves. The food was nice, and the movie was kind of funny, but afterwards, nobody was expecting what awaited us moments later. When the movie ended, we started walking out of our row towards the exit. This cinema is rather small, so there was only one door. When I looked back up to see where the rest of my family was, I saw that my mother was arguing with a couple. The man was a balding middle-aged snob with thick glasses and an oily face, and the woman was dressed up in a black dress with a golden necklace and had a fake blonde Karen haircut. Both of them had this unbearably upper-classy "I'm better than you" feel oozing out of them. It was pretty clear that they didn't want to get up to let my mother pass through. Now, you see, my mom has a medical problem with her knee. She wanted to pass the row in this specific direction. That way she doesn't have to huddle through the whole length of the row just to get out. She tried to explain this to this entitled Karen, but instead of being understandable and reasonable, she ended up just making fun of her and taunting her. She even said, "Oh, just climb over me," only to then moments later say, "No, I can't let you pass. I want to see the credits." After a while of these two going back and forth arguing, this entitled Karen put her feet up on the top of the seat, right in front of my mother to block my mother from going this way. At this point, my mom was all worked up and she started crying. She passed by me by the exit, taking the long way around, despite her knee giving her problems. Now, I don't take disrespect lightly, and I knew that if I didn't act now, this scene would follow me for some weeks. I remembered that I still had my water bottle with me, and it was filled to the brim. So I took it out, walked back to where the couple was sitting, and gave this entitled Karen and her boyfriend a refreshing shower, directly onto their bellies and laps. They clearly saw me coming and looked at me all smug and victorious. That is, up until the water hit them in their lap. This entitled Karen and her boyfriend looked shocked and had this "how could you" look on their face. Her boyfriend, who also yelled at my mom previously, confronted me in a quiet and shaky voice saying, "Why did you do that? You can't do that." Because apparently, this entitled Karen and her boyfriend never learned that their actions have consequences. As I'm turning to leave, this Karen goes into full rage mode, and that's when she does something that is absolutely unbelievable. And to this day, I'm honestly still shocked about what happened. It was at this point that she started climbing over her boyfriend and the seats just to get to me. Her boyfriend yelled at her saying, "Please, leave it as it is. Don't do it." And just as I went through the exit, I realized that she made her way right behind me. I turned and she was standing there with her fists in the air, like 2 steps apart from me. I looked at her and we both basically got in an argument right there, with this Karen ready to square off against me. Now, as a side note, I'm a 23-year-old guy, I'm fairly muscular, and I'm big into fighting sports. I've been training both Wing Chun and Muay Thai for quite a while now, since it's fun and it adds to my overall fitness. Don't worry, I didn't obliterate this Karen. I also didn't really attack her. I just assumed my fighting stance and took a step forward and straight up asked her if this is really what she wanted. The entitled Karen was still there in all her freshly soaked glory, seething with rage. Now at this point, I kind of wish that she would try something, just so I can use some kind of self-defense against her. But she just kind of stared at me and then tried to punch me, but she missed completely. So I established some distance and I stared her down once again. The next thing I know, this entitled Karen ran back into the cinema and my sister and my mother were getting in my way to end the situation. The entitled Karen was hiding behind some people in the cinema. Eventually, her balding middle-aged boyfriend walked to the exit, saw me and went wide-eyed again, completely overwhelmed with this situation. We then turned and left. A very kind woman reassured us that this entitled Karen acted weird and uncontrolled, and she suspected that some kind of illegal substance was probably involved with her behavior. Well, after that, we got a good story out of our family night, and the only thing this entitled Karen and her boyfriend got out of this were wet clothes and dirty looks. And you know what? I think that's a fair deal. How obnoxious of these people to act that way. While I definitely would not have poured water on those people that were acting like that if that was my mother, I most definitely would have gone up there and said something, because that's just inappropriate. You don't mock somebody and put them down simply because they have some kind of physical disability. That's really unfair and that's really gross. So hopefully they learn their lesson. And next time someone wants to pass them in the movie theater, they should just be a good person and let them pass. Otherwise, they just might get more water poured on them. I accidentally gave my neighbor the wrong phone number, and I feel so awkward about correcting it, I honestly don't know what to do. I'm a 22-year-old female, and I recently moved into a new apartment, and my upstairs neighbor and I recently got introduced because I got a new kitten, and it was screaming throughout the night. So I went upstairs to ask if he could hear her. I didn't want to disrupt my new neighbors, so I introduced myself, and we got to talking a little bit. Now, when we get home from work, which is usually around the same time, we would sit and chat and just try to get to know each other. A few days ago, I was a couple beers into the night, and I decided to write my number down on a sticky note and go upstairs and hand it to him. I tested my handwriting out on one, scrapped it, and wrote it down again. I went upstairs, handed it to him, and he seemed really taken back, but still was very interested in hanging out. I was anxious but excited, because it seems we have a lot in common from our short talks. Anyways, it has been a few days, and still no text from him. It was at that point that I was starting to worry that I might have creeped him out a little bit, and that's when I looked down at my first draft of the note that I had written him, and I'm pretty sure I wrote my freaking phone number wrong. In my defense though, I have 3 phones, 2 for work and a new number for personal reasons. I am so flustered, and I wonder if I wrote down the wrong one on the second draft that I handed to him. Do I go upstairs and apologize? I'm worried I might have gotten it right, and he just hasn't texted me yet. I don't want to come off as a creep, but it would also be nice to get to know him, even just as a friend. He was incredibly receptive to me giving him my number, so I don't know why he would be waiting to text me. I could also wait until I run into him again, but we don't see each other that often, and the last time we spoke, I gave him my number. Another option is to write the correct number down and post it on his door. Like I said, I don't want to be weird if I actually got it right. This is such a tricky situation, and I honestly don't know what to do. This is actually really funny, because I can totally see this happening. I can see you absolutely giving him the wrong number by accident, or at least second guessing your judgment when you were just a little impaired. So honestly, I don't think it's totally out of the ordinary to go up to his house and be like, "Hey, it's me again. I gave you my number the other night, but I have 3 phone numbers, and I'm pretty sure I gave you the wrong number. Here's the correct number." And then you just give him the correct number that you want to give him. And here's the best part. If it is still the number that you gave him, then it's all good. But at least you can go about this in such a way where you're trying to correct a potential mistake, which I think is totally reasonable. And who knows, maybe he has been trying to text you and get in contact with you in some way, but he hasn't been able to get through because your phone number is wrong. There's always a chance that you did get it wrong, and he has the wrong number, so that's why he's not texting you. So I say give it a shot, because honestly, who cares? You're both adults, you're both working for a living, and I highly doubt he has any time to really think about the logistics of you giving him his number. And the best part about it is that once you've given him the actual number, and you've at least corrected a potential mistake, the ball is then in his court. So if he does text you or call you, then you know he's interested. But if he doesn't reach out, then that could be your sign and you can move on and find other friends. But overall, this is honestly just a very hilarious situation to be stuck in, and hopefully it all works out. My new boyfriend seems to have moved in with me, and now I'm trying to figure out how to get him to leave. I'm honestly at a loss and I don't know what to do. I've known my former client, who turned into my friend, for several years. He has always lived in another state, so I would talk to him and text message him several times a week, but I would only see him in person once or twice a year at professional conferences. He got divorced, or so he said, 2 years ago, and said that he moved out of their home into an apartment. Well, about 2 months ago, he came to visit me and ended up attending an event with me, and as a result, we ended up becoming romantically involved. He flew back home after a few days and then said he wanted to see me again. So we traveled together and had a great time, but I could tell that he was being very stingy on paying for things, which seemed weird for someone who claims to have a very successful business. Anyway, he recently confessed to me, after I made the discovery, that he never moved out of his home from his marriage and was living with his ex because he was trying to save money, mostly because he was just broke. He ended up telling me he was coming to visit me and was going to stay for as long as I wanted him to. Now, as a side note, I have a 16-year-old son 50% of the time, but as often is the case with teenagers, he is a bit sporadic with his schedule due to sports, and I have a good relationship with his father, so we aren't very specific on custody times. We let our son do whatever works best for him. Well, when my boyfriend flew here, I told him that I wasn't comfortable with my son being home and having my boyfriend in the house sleeping in the same bed as me. He said, okay, I understand. He then offered and said, oh, well, maybe you can just say I'm taking the couch. Now, my home is only a 2-bedroom, so I said no, my son is too smart for that. So I told him that I would need him to go to a hotel that evening. But the kicker is that he would have me pay for the hotel. He thanked me profusely, but I'm a bit in shock here. So he flies to my town for a probationary period, as he puts it, to see if I will allow him to move in, and literally had me pay for his hotel when I told him he couldn't sleep there because my son takes priority. Fortunately, my son had practice last night and didn't come to my house, but that won't be the case tonight. So now I have to pay for my boyfriend to go to a hotel again? He doesn't even have a car because he told me that he sold his when he left town. I feel a bit shocked, mainly because I was very much into my boyfriend, and now I feel like I'm getting swindled or something like that. What should I do? I think you need to trust your gut on this one. This guy does not sound like he's being honest, and if anything, it definitely sounds like he's trying to move in. He has nowhere to go, he has no money, his business is failing, he even sold his car before he came there. Like, why would he do that? Also, the original poster's boyfriend is 45 years old. That's old enough to know how to figure things out, and that should be old enough where you can pay for a hotel for a night. So if anything, I would definitely have my guard up, because the way he's acting is super sketchy, and I think if you just put your foot down and say, no, I'm not doing this for you, and set some very clear boundaries with this guy, it will probably go a really long way, because otherwise I think you're going to be stuck with this guy, and I honestly don't think that would be good for you or your son. My girlfriend of 4 years broke up with me because she thinks I'm cheap, and I honestly don't know what to do. I've been dating my girlfriend for 4 years now. We argue a lot, at least once a month, but I do love her, and I want to spend the rest of my life with her. So we had a big argument the other day. She told me that a guy should at least give his girlfriend a gift of $1,000 just to show how much he really cares about her. I told her that I completely disagree, and materialistic items should mean nothing in the relationship. She then said, if we date for 10 years, you're telling me that you wouldn't get me something for just $1,000? And so again, I asked her why she putting so much emphasis on materialistic values. She then said that I was being cheap and that I'm glad I showed her my true colors. She also said she finds me worthless and told me that I make her feel worthless and like an absolute piece of garbage because of my response to what she said. So I then asked her if I gave her a $3,000 item for our 5-year anniversary, would she love me more? She hesitated, and then she said something that absolutely blew my mind. She said, yes, because it shows that you cared to shell out that much for me. I told her, but how does this strengthen our relationship? How does this fit into our goal? I also told her if I got you a gift for that much money, chances are in a few weeks we are arguing about something entirely different, and you would tell me not to guilt trip you because I bought you something expensive. I told her, okay, well that's not me, and I don't expect something of a high price. For reference, I barely make a steady income right now, and I still am trying to find a new place to move into. But after I said that, she got mad at me, and she said, when I ask you for nothing, you will throw this in my face. You make me feel like garbage. And when she said that, I was just beyond confused. I let her vent, and then she actually said that I show her no respect. She also said I don't appreciate her as a person and told me to go date other women because she will start looking for other men. So she essentially just ended our relationship over that. I never even responded back because when she gets this angry, no rational conversation is ever going to happen. I thought letting her vent was the right move here. We've had big arguments before, and when she tells me that she needs space, I back away. But then she just keeps going and going, which now has obviously led to her just breaking up with me. I'm honestly at a loss on what to do, and I'm beyond heartbroken. What should I do? This is honestly a weird situation because this definitely sounds like your girlfriend really does value gifts and money a lot more than she values her boyfriend. And I guarantee you that whoever she goes on to is absolutely going to get the same treatment, like 100%. So I would not be upset about her breaking up with you. This is probably a blessing in disguise. So if anything, congratulations. Don't get me wrong, I totally understand that this is a really painful situation, and none of this sounds like something that I would personally want in a relationship. But to be completely honest, she's just trying to get money out of you, and based on what you've described, she basically sees you as her personal piggy bank, and you are so much more than that. And I'm honestly surprised that you stuck around and dealt with this much as it is. So I would take her seriously. If she really wants to break up, then just let her go. Because someone who acts like this and is this obnoxious about it clearly has ulterior motives in my opinion. And to top it all off, I don't think this was a good relationship to begin with. So maybe it's time to just move on and find somebody else. My husband's friends treated me poorly, and despite him knowing that this is bothering me, he won't stick up for me and tells me just to deal with it because he's a people pleaser and he hates confrontation. And at this point, I don't know what to do. So my husband and I have been together for 4 years and married for 1. When we first got together, he was friends with 2 girls who hated me off the bat because they had had crushes on him and he didn't reciprocate. I would receive messages and comments from fake accounts online saying that I was ugly or that I was pretty and he only wanted me for my body because of that. We would go to events and there would be a small group of people there who would refuse to say hi or interact with me, but fully interacted with my husband. After a lot of time and passive-aggressive actions, he finally cut them out and blocked them. However, some of their friends who are mutuals with my husband continue to be cold towards me. Over the last 4 years, there have been periods of back and forth. For months, nothing will happen and things will feel great. Then suddenly, someone I don't know who is close with the 2 women will randomly view my story on Instagram without ever following me. A former friend admitted to me once that they constantly talk crap about me behind my back and gossip to me to other people. It feels like when I see these random views on my social media, it's probably because they are all hanging out together and gossiping. I have mentioned to my husband how it's weird and it makes me feel uncomfortable. My husband just shrugs it off and says to ignore it. He continues to talk to them and joke around on social media despite their treatment towards me. I'm tired of feeling disrespected like this on both fronts. I feel that my husband should stick up for me and at least call out their behavior. Something as simple as, why are you ignoring my wife when we're both right here? Or even something like, is there a reason you randomly followed then unfollowed my wife within a week? At least some acknowledgement that something passive-aggressive is happening and it's being noticed and discussed between us. I wish he would present a united front with me, but I feel very much alone in this right now. We have fought and argued about this issue many times before. Our therapist pointed out to him how it's weird behavior for these people to do this. I've told him if any of my friends were disrespectful towards him, I would take it personally as disrespect towards us. He really believes that just because this terrible behavior isn't directed at him, that he has no reason to put distance between them or call them out. I'm feeling extremely depressed today about this, and he's just ignoring me still, sitting on his computer doing nothing about it. What should I do? This is a terrible situation because I think to some degree, your husband really is a people pleaser, but he's pleasing the wrong people. He's trying to keep the peace with these extended friends while basically ruining his marriage, which is not fair for you at all. He has no spine and he's basically a jellyfish. The way he's acting and the way he's just allowing this to happen is really disrespectful towards you, and I think you really do need to understand that. Any reasonable spouse would step in and say, hey, stop treating my spouse like garbage, because for him to just sit there and do nothing is a silent note that he's basically accepting that, and it's not fair for you at all. And I'm sure this is a constant knock at your self-esteem. It's not fair to be treated this way, so I think you really need to express again to him and make sure he understands that this is not okay for you. This makes you feel terrible and you've got depression over this. So hopefully this works out, and hopefully he's able to step up to the plate and be the man that you would want him to be, because if the roles were reversed, I'm sure you would step up to the plate and help him out in his time of need. My wife watches annoying YouTube videos for hours every night, and I don't know what to do. I work from 9 to 5. She works weekends and some weekdays. Mostly during the evening from 7 p.m., our daughter goes to sleep, and she starts watching YouTube. It's not loud, but I can hear it. I mean, I work during the day, and I hear people talking. I talk to a lot of people as well, and while I'm at work, I talk to intellectual people, and I quite enjoy it. But when I get home and the evening comes along, I would like some peace. I have a gaming PC, and I play about 1 hour a day and watch YouTube or movies for another hour. I do that mostly on my headphones, as I like to hear it loud and immerse myself. However, as 7 p.m. kicks in, she starts watching absolute nonsense stuff, like housewives or some vlog videos about makeup, stuff like that. I understand this is probably only garbage for me, but not so for her. She loves this stuff. I am an intellectual person, and I get very frustrated whenever I hear dumb people talk, as well as when there's just nonsense being spoken about. And the stuff she watches has absolute nonsense scattered all over it. Hearing this every night for 3 to 4 hours is very annoying. I would love some peace. She sometimes watches a marathon of series, which I really don't mind and often do enjoy getting into myself. Something like a Netflix series or something along those lines. Anything with a high quality of production. But the YouTube videos that she watches, I honestly just can't stand them anymore. The worst part is she has AirPods. She could use them, but when I ask her, she just gets upset and just tells me that I need to put on my noise cancellation earphones. I can't wear that in bed, and I would love to fall asleep sometimes without anything playing around my ear. She stays up till midnight usually, and I often hear that garbage playing till that time. Also, when I go to bed early, like 9 o'clock p.m., she comes with me. I understand that it's great that your partner comes with you, but I would really enjoy some separate time in a room. The only way I can do that is to come to bed and then go back to the living room when she is already in bed. What should I do? I agree with the original poster to an extent, but I also really don't like his attitude. Like, sure, you don't like what your wife listens to on YouTube, but I'm sure she could flip the script and say that she doesn't like the games that you play and she doesn't like the videos that you watch. I mean, this definitely goes both ways, but I can't agree that when you're in bed, it's time to turn things off and go to bed. Laying in bed and watching YouTube videos with the noise on, I can completely understand would disrupt your sleep and make you feel miserable. So I would definitely say, hey, that at least has to go. And I think there might be some way to come to some kind of compromise where you can both still be happy and enjoy your time to yourself while also allowing the other person to basically do what they want. I think you just need to communicate better. And a lot of this post really only focuses on the original poster's feelings, and it kind of comes from the angle of like, well, what are you doing for me lately? And I personally feel like you need to think about your partner more. So talking this out and coming to some kind of compromise would probably go a long way. Otherwise, you might as well kiss your sleeping schedule goodbye. An entitled Karen demands that I sell my items online to her specifically, all while throwing out outlandish threats of getting me banned from the website I was selling from. Things got so bad that she was actually trying to extort me for more of my products, but I simply wasn't having it, so I got revenge and I got her banned instead. Here's what happened. So my husband and I got married 14 years ago, and as a wedding gift, we received 12 full china sets, including sterling silver flatware. We live in a small house and only have 2 children, so 12 sets is way too many for us to store. The sets were never used and still in the box, so we decided to sell 4 of them. I posted them on a local Facebook sellers group, and I posted each item separately, from flatware to plates to wine glasses. I posted photos with details of the brand, the model number, and showed how they were new in the box. I also posted a link to where they were purchased from with the original cost. I posted these for sale about 6 months after our wedding, so they are still brand new and not outdated at all. Each flatware set was purchased for $75 a piece, and this is because they were sterling silver. Even though they were still in the box, I knew I couldn't sell them for $75, so I asked for $60 per set. Granted, this was a great deal, considering they were still being sold in the store for $75, so if the buyer wanted them, they would be getting a fantastic deal. But I didn't realize how many people would respond to this. I started getting comments under my post immediately, like literally 150 comments or so, asking to purchase what I posted. In the post, I said first come, first serve. I started with the first person, and when they tried to haggle or couldn't meet for several days, I moved on to the next commenter. I explained that if possible, I needed these gone in the next 72 hours. And with so many people interested, I didn't think this would be an issue at all. I started getting private messages on my social media regarding the flatware because potential buyers were arguing in the comment section about wanting to purchase my items, which I was shocked about because they were literally forks, spoons, and knives. But I was thrilled because I needed to get rid of them, and I would be making some money that my husband and I could really use at the time. One of the messages I received was from a 50-year-old woman who just so happens to be the entitled Karen of this story. She messaged me and asked me if the flatware sets were still available. I told her they are, but I'm working through the list of who commented first because, as I said, it's first come, first serve. Apparently, this particular group had a very strict set of rules about selling items that I wasn't aware of since I hadn't ever sold anything on there before. This entitled Karen then told me that if I just sold the flatware to her, she wouldn't report me to the admins for violating the rules, and that way I would avoid a ban from the page. And by now, I was kind of annoyed, but I wanted to be done with the whole thing because the comments were starting to get nasty anyway, and I just wanted them gone. I told this entitled Karen if she met up with me at a mutually agreed upon location today after work, I would sell the flatware to her. She agreed, and we went back and forth a few more times to discuss the logistics of the meetup. Then she sent me this message. By the way, I only plan to pay you $8 per set. I'll take all 4. And when I read that, I actually laughed out loud, and I told her that the price was firm at $60 a set, and that there were countless other buyers who were willing to pay that price. In fact, part of the reason the comments were getting so nasty and why the rules were violated was because the commenters started offering more than the original asking price if I agreed to sell it to them and not go down the list according to first come, first serve. This entitled Karen then started to threaten me, telling me that she was good friends with the administrators and that what I was allowing to occur under my post violated the rules and could result in a permanent ban from the group. She doubled down and even had the gall to ask that I throw in one of my China sets as a measure of good faith and as an apology for causing so much chaos in the group. I had had enough at this point, and I told her that the only way I would consider selling her my flatware now after her blatant threats was if she paid $65 per set. Yes, I upped the price. And I also told her that she would have to meet today with cash in hand. This entitled Karen got so angry that I could almost see smoke coming out of the words that she was typing to me in the DM. She started calling me all these terrible names and said I was a horrible person. She then started guilt tripping me, saying that she needed this flatware because it was on back order and that I had to sell them to her at the price I stated. Otherwise, that was just a rule breaker. But little did she know, I couldn't care less about being a member of this stupid Facebook group. I never bought anything from there and only posted these specific items this one time for sale. These groups are a dime a dozen, so if I get banned, I would still sleep like a baby every night and not give a second thought to it. I told this entitled Karen that I was done messaging her and that we weren't going to come to any kind of agreement, obviously. I wished her luck on finding the flatware that she needed elsewhere. She started tagging all the administrators from the group under my post, telling them that the group's rules were being violated. I started getting DMs from the main admins about the flatware post, asking what was going on. I then explained the situation with this entitled Karen and shared all of the screenshots of what happened. I then told this admin that if she had to ban me, I was fine with that. I would delete my post and sell it via DMs or in another group. The admin was super nice and told me that they wouldn't ban me, and she apologized to me for how this entitled Karen was treating me. She advised that I go back to trying to sell at the original asking price and in order of who commented first. Long story short, I ended up selling all 4 flatware sets for $60 a piece to a very sweet old lady that same day. The entitled Karen still commented nasty things on the post for several days after the post was marked as sold, and the admin ended up getting the entitled Karen banned from the group. So that was honestly pretty sweet. This is karma working its magic right in front of you. Absolutely fantastic story and result. This entitled Karen probably really thought she had this lady backed into a corner. I mean, she was basically extorting this person for all this flatware and fine china. I mean, how low of a person do you have to be to try and threaten someone just to try and get what you want? Like, that is not how it works. And I'm honestly so happy that that person got banned because it is so toxic to treat people like this. And I'm willing to bet that this is not the first time that this entitled Karen has threatened someone in this way just to get a good deal. So in my opinion, this entitled Karen getting banned is absolutely well deserved. An entitled customer threatens my employee over an honest billing mistake. Things got so bad that I had to refuse them service, and I'm now in the process of trying to get them banned from the hotel I work at. Here's what happened. So I am a freshly promoted front desk supervisor at my hotel, and my coworker is my desk assistant. On the previous night shift, one of our third-party reservations declined, and in the mix, the virtual card was erased from the reservation and replaced with the guest's actual card during the incidental collection, resulting in a double charge. The guest saw the double charge on his statement and came down to the desk to immediately start screaming at the front desk agent. Once this popped off, the front desk agent called me to help explain the situation to this guest, as well as what was going on and how we were going to fix it. But the guest refused to listen and just kept cutting us off at every opportunity, telling us to refund him right now. At the time, we didn't know exactly what happened, and because it's the virtual card, only my general manager is supposed to handle that. But he still would not listen and continued to cut us off. Eventually, he got so angry that he started to threaten my desk agent. He said, "I'm gonna come back in 10 days, and if I don't see both charges go through, I'm gonna fight you." And after this guy said this, the desk agent told him to get out, and thankfully this guy did. Skip ahead to 9:30 last night, and I'm doing my manager stuff when two men come in, and one of them introduces themselves as the guests from earlier and requested a free room because of the double charge from earlier. I politely explained that even though there was a billing issue, I cannot and will not honor a free room for the night, to which the guest then threatened to call the police on me, which is honestly just hilarious. They were actually trying to claim that I was scamming him. He was extremely irate, and I was honestly worried he was going to get violent. I told him the police literally cannot help you with that, but feel free to call them if you really want to. To try and fix this situation and keep this guy from losing his mind, I called the third party about the reservation, and I explained the situation to them. I told them that I'm the supervisor, and I went through all the details with this guy meticulously. They then asked to book a room, and I said no. While I did fix their issue on their end, I told them that this guy could no longer stay at this hotel because he threatened my agent, and then he threatened me with the police. Once this was finally all explained to this guy, he again threatened to call the police. And at this point, I was reaching for my phone at this point, and I told him that the way he's acting is the very reason why I'm not giving them a room. Thankfully, after that confrontation, they left, and thank God they did. I called the third party this morning, and I am in the process of having his card flagged for our property. That way he can hopefully never come back, and we don't have to deal with him ever again. How crazy and weird do you have to be to threaten somebody over a card getting double charged? Like, it happens, it's not that big of a deal, and there's a way to get it fixed. I would say in most corporate settings, or corporately owned businesses, there's just no way they're gonna be scamming you out of your money. Sure, there's exceptions to everything, but to just jump to the conclusion of, "Oh, you're just trying to scam me, you're trying to take my money from me," is really outdated in my opinion. There are truly so many angles to try and get stuff taken care of, even if it does take a while. And to top it all off, he threatened to fight the front desk agent. I mean, it's not their fault, they're just doing their job. And I bet if this guy was just a little bit kinder, he probably would have gotten the help that he needed a lot quicker. But instead, he wanted to act crazy. And if that's the route you're gonna go, then you can definitely expect getting banned from properties, as well as getting absolutely no customer service. My ex broke up with me and has absolutely ruined my life. And now I am absolutely consumed with rage towards him, and I honestly don't know what to do. So I was broken up with by my ex-boyfriend in mid-2020 during the COVID lockdowns in my country. Ever since then, my life has been in a downward spiral, and I am so angry at him for breaking up with me and destroying our relationship. I feel like he completely ruined my life by doing that. I have medical issues, and I keep rapidly gaining weight no matter what I do or what medical treatment I seek. I have a terrible job, and I'm really struggling to finish my degree and make decent marks. Before we broke up, I was coping medically, my job was okay, and I received excellent marks and I worked hard at studying. He now seems to be living a perfectly happy life and has a girlfriend, and I can't bear the thought of dating, and I am terrified of the risk of subjecting myself to terrible men in the dating pool. Even if I wanted to, it wouldn't be possible for me to find a partner because I am overweight, I am chronically ill as well as mentally ill, and I don't put up with anybody's garbage anymore. There are hundreds of other 25-year-old skinny women without any problems lining up to accept garbage from these men, so they would have no reason to deal with me in the slightest. I know for a fact he talks trash about me behind my back to my mutual acquaintances, and they just blindly believe every single word of it, and it damages and ends my friendships with them as well. Basically, he's taken literally every single good thing in my life away from me. I have no close relationships, and I feel like everyone I know hates me. I feel like he only broke up with me due to the stress of the pandemic, which is now functionally over. It was a permanent solution to a temporary situation. If he had not done that, I would probably be engaged and really happy right now, instead of being a fat loser hurtling towards my 30th birthday with absolutely nothing to show for it. When we got together, I was young young, thin, attractive, and successful. He took my best years, destroyed all of that, and now has made it impossible for me to get anyone else. He did so much other terrible stuff to me over the course of the relationship, but at this point, I'm just consumed with anger at him leaving me. He repeatedly had promised me we'd be together forever, and all this other stuff, but you know what? He broke that promise for no reason. I hate him and I miss him at the same time. Basically, every waking moment is consumed with anger at this man. I feel that I will never get over this relationship and spend the rest of my life being totally miserable. And yes, I have been in therapy this whole time, and hopefully I can get this figured out because I honestly don't know what to do. It sounds like your ex-boyfriend is an absolute piece of garbage. The fact that he's going behind your back after the fact just to talk garbage about you and say all these terrible things, basically trying to ruin all your friendships and all this other stuff, is all the evidence you need to latch onto to prove to you once and for all that this guy sucked and you are so much better off without him. And I just don't think you need whatever he was trying to give you. I also think you're just being way too hard on yourself. The negative self-talk and the way you're putting yourself down and calling yourself basically unlovable is absolutely ridiculous. There is 100% somebody out there who would love and appreciate you exactly as you are. And if you wanted to get back into the dating pool, I'm sure you can find somebody who would love and appreciate you. I know if I was in your situation, I would do everything I can to improve my situation because you really do deserve to be happy. And hopefully as you continue to go to therapy, you can try and figure this out and find the best course of happiness for you in your life. I have been in love with a celebrity for nearly 10 years and I still can't get over it and I don't know what to do. I was in middle school when I started listening to this band and I fell hard for the lead singer. I was depressed, awkward, and unsure of myself, just as any middle schooler really would be. So I basically just filled the void with this band. I'm not a stalker or anything like that and would never do anything creepy or illegal, but I collected every album, watched every interview, made fan art, learned their songs on instruments, participated in the fan base online, and went to concerts. I've now seen this band many times in venues ranging from sold-out arenas to small secret shows. I even bought meet and greet when given the opportunity, and he was so sweet during it. I would constantly freak out about how much I love him to my friends, but I figured deep down that this was just a phase, and I was just making good memories for later on when I wouldn't care about this band anymore. I've used this band's music to celebrate my highest highs and to get me through my lowest lows. There was a point where I was so depressed that I could not fall asleep if I didn't have music on because my thoughts would be too painful, and his voice was the only thing that brought me enough comfort to get any sleep. Now I'm not as depressed anymore. I do get really sad sometimes, and I go through really rough patches, but I can deal with them much better now. Most of my friends, except for one, have grown out of the band now, so I keep things more to myself than in the past. I'm also more confident in myself, and I do extremely well in college, and I'm on the right path to my dream career through my college performance and internships so far. I went to another one of his concerts recently, which is the first one since COVID happened, and while I've stayed a fan the entire time, the concert was just amplifying those feelings so much again. I'd never been in an actual relationship, and sometimes I feel like I'll never love someone as much as I love him. He is totally 100% my type, and he just has the cutest, most adorable, caring personality. I know this is unhealthy, and I see posts about people getting over people they've known, but I don't know how to get over this random famous person. It feels weird, and I'm sure people won't understand, but all I can say is the love feels real to me. I know I'll never have him, so how can I get over him? What should I do? I think if I was in your shoes, I would remember that I don't actually know this person. Like, yeah, you probably love the music that they create and the image and the personality that they have. It's probably all stuff that you really want to have in your future partner, but you don't know this guy. Like, you really need to understand and remember that. And you don't even love him. You probably just love the idea of him, because at the end of the day, you don't know him at all. You simply see what he shows to the general public. I'm sure he seems like this warm, bubbly personality, and he's everything that you love, but you know what? He could very well be a jerk behind closed doors. And this is one of those parasocial relationships that really, in my opinion, is absolutely unhealthy. And if anything, it's just a waste of time. Like, let's think about this guy for a second. He probably deals with a lot of people who are in your shoes as well, who have this unrequited love for this man, all because of his music. And in my opinion, I think you need to take a step away and realize that the only way you've ever been able to see this person is if you pay to meet and greet with them. He's just an idea to you, a made-up fantasy, and that's honestly all he will ever be. So give yourself some distance and maybe go on a date with someone who is real, and find somebody who you really can get to no, because hanging on to this guy is only going to cause you a lot of heartache and a lot of frustration in your life. My fiance thinks I'm giving the cold shoulder to her, and I honestly don't know what to do. So my fiance and I honestly spend every waking minute together besides work, and that's about it. Here's how a typical workday goes. We wake up at the same time, go to work at the same time, and I end up picking her up after work about 2 hours later. Once I get home, before I've picked her up, I feed our animals and I get dinner prepped, and sometimes I clean up small amounts. Once done, I hop onto some RuneScape online, all the way up until it's time to go pick her up. I then go pick her up, come home, play a bit more, then go walk the dog with her. We come back inside, and I'll either play a little bit more and then go make dinner, or make dinner, then play some more. For those of you who don't know or play RuneScape, it's a very AFK game at times. So when dinner is ready, I set up to do something in the game that won't make me lose, and I watch dinner with her. After dinner, I'll pick back up where I was and keep playing till bedtime basically. And yes, this is just about an everyday occurrence, besides on most weekends. But now she's unhappy, and an argument has come about with her. She's saying that I don't spend time with her and that I'm giving her the cold shoulder. She is saying that I don't just sit on the couch with her just to watch TV. So I explained to her again how my game works, stating that I'm doing something that doesn't require me to be at the computer, and that this whole time I've been watching the TV and could probably tell you more about the show than you can tell me because you've just been sitting on your phone. She will then imply that I'm not really doing anything with her anyways, to which I then explain that I've offered for her to play my game and even play any game that she would want to pick, but she never wants to do that. She then says that we're in the house too much already as it is. So I explained to her that during work days, we shouldn't bother going out due to us not having free time till 6 o'clock. So it's honestly rather pointless on a work day, while also reminding her that we still go out on the weekends. She then tells me that when she wants attention, I never give it to her, which, if I'm gonna be honest here, is a bold-faced lie, as I honestly drop everything I'm doing for my fiance. When it's time to walk the dog, I'll immediately log out and go with her. When it comes to cooking dinner, I'll log out again and cook with her. Even whenever we're watching certain shows, I'll log out because I'm so interested in the series that we're watching. I pay attention to what clothes she likes and try to keep her wardrobe fresh and new. She doesn't appreciate it and will toss out the clothes the next day I get for her. I talk to her about what's going on in my workday, as well as listen to her and comment on her work days as well. We still have ample number of times for conversation. So honestly, I'm just really confused, and I wonder, how is it that I'm giving her the cold shoulder? What should I do to fix this situation? I think you really need to log out of your game and realize that you're playing it way too much. I think your girlfriend has a point. You basically explained over and over again that your life revolves around this video game, as opposed to what it really should be revolved around, that being your fiance and your future marriage. You're really setting a weird precedent that this is what she's gonna have to deal with for the entirety of your marriage with her, and I'm sure she's probably very frustrated. She's saying stuff like, you need to spend time with me, basically implying that there's no quality time being spent between the two of you. So I think it might be time to cut back on the video game, because you're clearly messing with your relationship in a really negative way. Maybe playing it less and spending more time with her would probably fix this situation entirely, but I'm not sure if you're gonna see it, because based on what you've explained, it seems like you're being very prideful, and I'm just not sure if you're gonna be able to catch on to what's actually happening. So hopefully this all works out, because from the outside looking in, the fact that you're playing your video game this much, and the fact that this is such an important part of your day, is more or less what's causing so much friction in your relationship. An entitled Karen freaks out on me, claiming that I'm going straight to hell for listening to music that she classifies as devil music, and I honestly couldn't be more disgusted by her weird, toxic behavior. Here's what happened. I like to listen to many types of music regardless of the season. In fact, there are times when I will listen to my music in alphabetical order, and the only other people that freak out about my type of music is my parents. And it's never really any random stranger, except for this overly religious entitled Karen. So I had been on campus all morning and was heading home to relax for the day. I'm on the bus heading home, and it had just pulled away from the transit center. I noticed a little kid who peeked over my shoulder to look at my MP3 that I had at the time. I didn't mind that much, but I think the kid had looked enough to try and read the name of the songs on my MP3. And then after that, he just sat back down into his seat. I got back to looking out the window, which is something I do naturally, just tried to mind my own business. And around this time, the Carol of the Bells song started playing. And once that started, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turn and I see this kid's mom, who is the entitled Karen of this story. The entitled Karen goes in on me and says, "Why are you listening to Christmas music during the summer?" I look at her and I say, I'm just listening listening to my songs in alphabetical order, and that just happens to be the only song that starts with this letter. And before I could go any further, this entitled Karen freaks out, and I'm kind of amazed that she even cares. She says,
"But it's summer. You shouldn't listen to Christmas music during the summer. You're leaving a bad influence on little kids."
I look at her and I say, I'm listening to my music with earphones on, and clearly it's not loud enough to disturb anyone around me. This entitled Karen then just goes off on a rant, saying that I shouldn't listen to seasonal songs outside of their specific season. To add fuel to this weird fire this entitled Karen was creating, Carol of the Bells ended, and a tribute song for Devil May Cry started, and the song Dance with the Devil started playing. This entitled Karen must have looked down at my MP3 player, saw the name of this song, and went on a full rant about how I was listening to the devil's music, and that because of that, I'm a sinner. And it was at that point that I decided I needed to get off the bus now and just walk the 2 blocks home on foot. It was just a few stops away from my actual stop, and I would much rather do that than listen to this weird Karen rant on about her religion and about how I'm apparently gonna go to hell for listening to this type of music, all because the word devil is in the title. So I pull the stop cord, signifying to the driver that I just want to get off. The entitled Karen acts all dramatic, covering her kid's eyes so he couldn't see the devil music that's displaying across my MP3 screen. The driver stops and I just get off. He was simply ignoring the ranting Karen, who's still going on and on about my devil music, saying that it's infecting my very being. Then out of nowhere, she suddenly starts going off on this weird racist rant, describing me in some kind of weird stereotypical way based on my ethnicity. And then at this point, the driver chimed in and warned her that if she did not stop, he was going to kick her off the bus. And when this was happening, I was praying that this lady was not going to get off at the same time as me. Luckily for everybody, she did stop her weird rant, and I was able to get off the bus and be left alone. As the bus pulled away, I look up and I see this entitled Karen glaring daggers at me as they leave. But I just turned and walked away, still listening to my music, because I don't care what other people think. It's my music, and I can choose to listen to whatever I like. As long as it's not disturbing anybody else, then it's absolutely fine by me. What a weird entitled Karen. They really just jumped all over this person and freaked out not only because they're listening to Christmas music during the summer, but also because the song they were listening to had the word devil in it. I mean, what kind of cherry-picking Christian is this lady? I always find it super toxic when people use their religion just to try and discriminate against somebody else or to put somebody down and make them lesser than them, which I'm pretty sure is the exact opposite of what this lady is supposed to believe. And I also think it's a pretty telling sign that she went off on some weird racist rant that had absolutely nothing to do with the situation. What a wonderful example to leave for your kid. So good for this original poster for deciding to step away and say, you know what, this is not worth my time. Because somebody's taste in music does not determine if they're a good or bad person. But in contrast, judging people based on your own worldview and then going off on some racist tangent, in my opinion, classifies you as a pretty terrible person. My ex is forcefully giving back all of my gifts that I've given her over the course of our relationship, and I'm honestly at a loss and I don't know what to do. So the title says it all. Me and my ex of a 2-year relationship broke up, and this happened in the beginning of August. She wants to get back together, but I absolutely don't want to because this relationship is toxic to me. Well, she is definitely toxic. So I broke up with her, and I'm carefully and slowly fading out of her life to avoid all the drama. I could go no contact, but it would be a bad idea because it would make her even more obsessed with me. I was quite clear about my position. I told her I wouldn't change my mind, but she still insists I'm not leading her on. What happened is she wanted to give back a SodaStream bottle, and we were supposed to meet up Sunday morning, but I forgot since we talked about it more than 2 weeks ago. She dropped off the SodaStream bottle as well as all the gifts I gave her at my door, but I know that it was just a pretext to try and talk to me in person. But I intentionally avoided it because she just keeps going and eats up my time, and it's always leaving me exhausted, stressed, and sad. I didn't want to spend 3 hours of my Sunday listening to her when there is nothing more to talk about. I still made time for a call that was about an hour and a half too long, where she told me she dropped off the bottle at my front door. I was just planning for a 30-minute call max, but she kept me on the phone and I went along with it for a little bit, hoping it would satisfy her, so she would leave me alone for a while after that. And at this point, I'm upset because what's the point of giving back a gift? If you don't want it, just throw it in the trash, or maybe give it to someone else. I don't care. It's yours. You can do what you want with it. She kept insisting on coming back together during the call, but honestly, if there was even a slight chance of it happening, giving back the gifts like that just just ruined that chance completely. I am so mad at her for doing it, and I'm wondering what's going on in her head to make her do that. I feel like she just pushed on me the problem of getting rid of it. Now I have to figure out how I'm gonna dispose of it. How can I deal with these gifts and the anger I'm feeling now? I gave them in good faith, in special moments, and I thought really hard about these gifts and what I wanted to give her, but now this feels like a slap in the face, especially just to get them all dropped back off at my house again. What should I do? Your ex sounds like she's seriously trying to manipulate you. She's obviously trying to step back into your life just to mess with you a little bit more. She's clearly toxic and she has some weird vendetta against you. So honestly, I would just ignore this. And I really don't agree with you in this case. I think going no contact would really be the best thing for you. She's clearly just trying to talk and waste your time and drag you back into a relationship. But I think for your own sanity, it is definitely time to cut her off, kick her to the curb, and move on with your life. Because it starts with gifts that she's given you, and then eventually it moves on to more stalking behavior. And it seems like this is just the tip of the iceberg in some ways. And it honestly feels like if you can stop this before it gets too bad, you can avoid a lot of frustration and a lot of heartache down the line. So if I was in your shoes, I would go no contact. I would block her on everything and just move on with your life. Because letting her back into your life, even if just for a moment, is only going to cause frustration and agony in your life. And I honestly don't think you deserve to deal with that. My entitled parents forced me to go trick-or-treating with my entitled younger brother, and I honestly could not be more upset. I recently had a wonderful day. My work just threw a pizza party earlier today, and I got to take one home. The pizza was good, and I bought donuts to share from a local shopping center. Even though the workday did speed up at around noon, I managed to keep calm and patient. Today was almost perfect, and I wanted to go trick-or-treating, as it was the night of Halloween. After my family and I ate some pasta that I made, I got myself ready. I wore a witch costume and had a black cape. It was a very comfortable outfit, even though the cape did warm my body almost to a point where I nearly ripped it off. My brother told me that he'd be ready to go, and I waited outside. It was quite warm, and there were mosquitoes buzzing around. It took a grand total of 40 minutes to get ready. During that time, I did ask him if he was okay, to which he replied yes. I then found out he was stalling for time and making me wait just to annoy me. I told him we needed to leave, and my parents just sided with him. I spoke even more firmly after a while and told him we needed to leave right now, or else all the houses and neighborhoods would be out of sweets. After this, I told him I'm leaving right now and to come with me because I won't put up with this stalling or any other annoying antics any further. Besides, it was hot and I was getting eaten alive by bugs. He finally came out and I calmed myself down as I just wanted to enjoy a peaceful night with my brother. I didn't want to do this alone. We were a step off the driveway when he began to wrestle the bag I was holding out of my hand. I asked him why he wanted it and he just ignored me, continuing to wrestle it out of my hand. I just walked away after that, not wanting to deal with this during Halloween, and I was tired. As I walked away, I heard my parents screaming at me. I went to a few of the houses, which thankfully had some chocolates left, and was heading up another part of the street when my dad called me. He yelled at me to come back, and so I ended up doing just that. I didn't want to hear more yelling, and I just ignored it. Otherwise, there would be more drama. As it turns out, my brother told them that he left his phone in the bag. I looked inside the bag, and I noticed that it wasn't there. I then saw him holding it and sticking the finger up at me. I was livid. He lied to my parents again, and I was yelled at for no reason. They yelled at me and forced me outside with him, telling us to have fun, even though I knew it would only end badly. My mother had instructed me to keep him safe and to look after him. It was fine for the first part, until it started to get a little bit darker. I told him that we should head home now, yet he still ignored me. Unfortunately, in my area, nighttime is the best time for the idiotic teenagers to come out. I was sent to the hospital once due to their actions. I felt unsafe and fear for my little brother's safety too. It was getting even darker now, and all the houses had run out of sweets. I told him we needed to head home, but he continued to ignore me and ran off into the darkness. I found him again soon, and he yelled at me for caring about him and wanting to keep him safe from all the idiots present during the night. I tried explaining that I was only looking out for him and following our mother's orders to keep him safe, and that he should prioritize his own safety rather than run after sweets late at night. But that didn't help either. He started getting aggravated, saying, "You want to go?" just in some kind of weird attempt to intimidate me and scare me. I couldn't hold it in anymore, and I told him we needed to go home right now, as it was getting too late, as well as too dark to be outside anymore. Eventually, he said, "Fine," in a very sarcastic sarcastic tone and berated me for acting like a dominant person and treating him so poorly, along with any other excuse you could think of. I kept as calm as I possibly could, holding back my tears. All I wanted to do was enjoy a night out with my brother, and it turned into something I wanted to avoid. He then ran from me in the direction of our house, yelling obscenities and grabbing the attention of cars passing by. I was afraid of him running off into the darkness in hopes of finding more sweets again, so I chased after him. But that didn't help either, as I had a few cars beeping at me and their drivers screaming at me to stop chasing that child, despite the fact that I was explaining that that's just my dumb brother running off into the dark. I came to a halfway point and my brother had disappeared. I called out for him and he came out from behind the sandstone structure and attempted to push me into the road. I pushed him back in self-defense and watched him run away again. I arrived home, and as soon as I stepped through the door, I yelled at him. Apparently, according to my brother, I had chased him home and threatened him, and I apparently hit him trying to get his bag of chocolates. I tried to explain what happened, but I was cut off, even though I kept trying to speak up. All I can say is that this was the worst Halloween I've ever had, and if I ever do it again, I want to do it with someone who will actually treat me like a normal human being, instead of just a mental punching bag like my little brother and my stupid entitled parents. How awful is that? This original poster was looking forward to going trick-or-treating all day, and their stupid little brother, as well as their stupid entitled parents, completely ruined it. And to make matters worse, it sounds like the parents just simply would not listen to this original poster. They completely ignored everything they were saying and took the side of this spoiled little brat of a brother. That's really unfortunate. So I'm really sorry to the original poster that this happened. But you know what? Maybe next year you can make other plans, and you can go spend your Halloween with some friends who will treat you right. That way you can have some fun and avoid your annoying, spoiled little brother. My roommate and best friend is starting to get unbearable, and I don't know if I can maintain this friendship or any relationship with her after this, and I honestly don't know what to do. I live with two other roommates, and we are all college-age students who were friends for about 3 years prior to living together. But my one roommate is driving me and my other roommate absolutely crazy. For one, she says that she's very OCD, especially when it comes to cleanliness. The apartment is kept spotless thanks to her, which I genuinely appreciate, but we never asked or expected her to be the housekeeper. She chooses to do this on her own. She doesn't allow anything on the tables, except what's supposed to be there, like the napkin holder and candles, stuff like that. And anytime anything is left on the table, she will put it in front of our doors. I understand that she doesn't like clutter, but we can't even keep things like water bottles or a book in our shared space, namely the kitchen or the living room. Our apartment looks like a Bed Bath & Beyond display, which is beautiful, but not sustainable for college students in my opinion. What initiated this post in the first place is that she sent an incredibly passive-aggressive paragraph into our general chat, basically saying she's tired of cleaning up after us and she is at her wit's end. I understand her points, and I said I would try to be more cognizant of cleaning, but she has a standard of cleanliness that is just way above me and my other roommate. Me and the other roommate are a bit messy, and our own rooms look like stereotypical college student rooms, but we do clean up after ourselves in the common space. Occasionally, a couple of dishes will be left in the sink for maybe half a day, as we all have different schedules for classes as well as work, and we're often in a rush, so we don't have time fully to clean up before we get going. I sometimes leave dishes for maybe a couple of hours, but we have never asked this one roommate to clean up for us. But regardless, she often just does the dishes if she sees them, and has always acted like she doesn't care about doing so, and it wasn't really a big deal, which apparently it clearly is. Another thing is that sometimes we host get-togethers on the weekend, which is something that is not unusual for college students to do. So yes, the apartment can get a bit messy. We typically wait until the morning after to clean up, but she wakes up earlier than us and just cleans it herself, which again, we never asked her to do this. This also seems to only be a problem when it's just me or the other roommate hanging out and just having a good time, and this never is a problem when she is included. And whenever she hosts people by herself, we have never said anything about her mess in the mornings, because we understand that no one is going to clean up at 2 in the morning while wasted. The other issue is a big one, and this is a noise issue. She has very bad sleeping problems and cannot fall asleep with any noise. And I mean, I have even gotten text messages from her asking me to move around a little bit quieter and to close the cabinets quieter. The worst thing is that she sleeps very early, while me and my other roommate are night owls. We even got a message from her at 10 o'clock at night asking us to be quiet when we were having a conversation at a completely normal and reasonable volume, even when I am actively trying to move around as quietly as possible, it will still disturb her. We basically have to live on her schedule. If she decides to sleep later one day, we can live our lives like normal. But if she decides she wants to sleep at, 9 o'clock at night, we basically can't do anything and have to stay silent in our rooms. I sympathize with her problem, but it is so difficult to accommodate, especially since no solutions seem to help. She says sound machines don't work, earplugs don't work, and even worse, when she wakes up in the morning, which can be super early by the way, she will occasionally decide to use her blender right there in the morning without even considering our sleep schedules. Luckily, I'm usually able to sleep through it, but why are we expected to tiptoe around her while she can do whatever she wants? This is probably the issue that is causing the most frustration and is honestly the hardest to address. She genuinely feels bad about it and always apologizes, but there is really no solution I can think of. Overall, we basically operate on whatever she wants. There is essentially no compromising. My other roommate had lived with her for the year prior as well, and she told me that she had to try to figure something out regarding the noise problem. But this roommate is essentially saying, "You're asking me to compromise my sleep," and just completely shuts down any suggestions. And she is basically able to do whatever she wants. If she wants to leave dishes in the sink because she's busy or something like that, she is free to do it and will never deal with any complaints from us. But if either of us does that, she will then claim that she's being forced to clean up after us. She acts like she owns the place when we all pay equal rent. I would really like an objective opinion on this situation, as well as suggestions on how to move forward. If me and my good roommate are actually being the jerks here, then we will happily adjust. But my personal feelings are that we are just trying to be good roommates and maintain an acceptable college student home. I also want to mention that I lived with 3 other girls the year prior, and we never had any of these kinds of problems. If someone left the dishes for a day or two, we would just work around them and understand that said roommate is probably very busy. If there was a party the night before, no one would complain about a mess because we knew whoever hosted would clean it up as soon as they woke up. Maybe this is an unfair standard to expect, but this is what I was used to, and things worked fine, and they were my best friends, just like my other roommate and this one that's causing me problems. What should I do? Because I'm honestly at a loss and I'm not sure where to go from here. I think your roommate needs to understand that you need to have some kind of compromise. Otherwise, this is just not going to work. She says that you're making too much noise at night. Well, you can then counter that and say, no, you're making noise in the morning. We're both at fault. Sure, you can try and quiet down as it is, but you know what? This is college. People are going to have normal conversations in the middle of the night. Like, that's not totally out of the ordinary. So I think you need to explain to her quite bluntly, it sounds like, that if she's having trouble sleeping, then she needs to accommodate herself to either earplugs or revisiting some of these things that she claims is never gonna work. Also, when it comes to cleaning, I think obviously just step up where it is, but also tell this roommate that she's doing too much and that she really should not be touching your property. And yeah, I totally agree with you. You can absolutely put stuff up in your common areas because that really should not be a problem with anybody involved in that apartment. The fact that she's moving your stuff around and placing it in front of your door in a passive-aggressive way is really toxic. I think if anything, just tough it out till the end of the year and find a new place to live next year, because this lady sounds absolutely obnoxious to deal with. And I can completely understand where you're coming from, where you're kind of at your wit's end and you don't know exactly how to deal with this. My entitled parents ruined every birthday since my sister was born, allowing my sister to blow out my birthday candles as well as to have all of my gifts and presents. And after 8 years of misery and woe, I finally blew up on my parents and let the cat out of the bag. And now as a result, my entire family sided with me and turned on my parents for their disgusting behavior and their absolute neglect towards my happiness. And I honestly can't believe how things went down. Here's what happened. So this year, I'm 18 years old, and fairly recently, I am on my own from my parents. I have a sister about 10 years younger than me. She was an unplanned pregnancy and nearly didn't make it to term. I don't know many of the details of how rough my mother's second pregnancy was, since I was never told much, but I do know that it was so hard on her body that my mother could no longer have kids after my sister was born. She was in and out of the hospital repeatedly that year. My mother almost didn't survive the birth either. It made her and my father latch on to my little sister because she could have potentially never been born. And ever since then, I felt like I was just the other child in the house. That is, except for when they needed a free babysitter. The level of favoritism my parents showed long term has me believing they are genuinely sick in the head for not noticing exactly what it was doing to me. And now it's rebounding on them. So starting with my 11th birthday, my parents wanted me to let my sister blow out my candles. candles because she was 2 years old and cried at the sight of birthday cake that wasn't hers. I didn't want to do it, but my parents forced me into it, and they relit the candles for me to do it again after her. But at that point, the moment felt completely ruined. The same thing happened the next year and the year after that, and so on and so forth. They just kept forcing it until it became the norm. My sister even had to have presents on my birthdays as well. And to top it all off, I never got any of hers either. And when I asked why, they just told me that I'm a boy and boys don't need to worry about it as much. I know I was a kid, but did they really think that this was the best thing to say or the smartest thing to say? Not really, in my opinion. And my parents would always choose a place my sister would like to be at more than me on my own birthday. Eventually, it became more like my sister was getting 2 birthdays a year and I was getting none. Beyond this, my parents made their entire lives revolve around my sister. If there's something I wanted to do, my sister had to want to do it too. Otherwise, it was vetoed, unless I could do it alone. I eventually just learned to lock myself in my room with my video games because they didn't seem to bother me there. That is, unless my sister wanted to run into my room and annoy me, hence why I always put a lock on the door. My parents wanted me to remove it, but I freaked out because I was an angry teenager who was tired of being intruded on at any given moment. My sister came running in more than once when I had no clothes on, and my parents were upset at me for being naked in my own room. When I pointed out how ludicrous that was, they withdrew their objection and just let me keep the lock. My sister developed quite the princess complex because of how she was being spoiled on a daily basis, and she was very demanding, so I stayed away from her as much as feasibly possible. Whatever excuse I could use to not have to deal with her, I used it. Even if I had to make up stuff just to have time to myself. My parents hired a teenage girl babysitter, and I got more personal time. But eventually, the babysitter quit because my sister wouldn't listen to her, and my parents tried to keep from paying her by saying that she did a bad job. The girl got some other people involved, and my parents finally paid her what they owed her. Then they hired another girl to babysit on the regular, and this one ended up staying. But my parents made it clear that I was to be watching my sister any day I had free, which I went out of my way to make sure I was busy, especially at my part-time job if I could. My sister treated me as her personal butler and ordered me around. She even had a stupid nickname for me that she wouldn't stop using, and just hearing that nickname makes my blood boil. And if I didn't give her everything she wanted, she'd cry and call our parents, and then I would be in trouble for mistreating her. We had many massive arguments because of this, and after I refused to yield anymore, my relationship with my parents de-evolved into barely any words spoken between us for some time. And yet, during my high school graduation, they had the nerve to brag to other parents that they were the reason I worked so hard. Well, they weren't wrong, but the reason they were thinking of was not the one that actually happened. I worked hard just biding my time for when I'd be free finally from my parents. But my parents acted like they'd done so much. I mean, maybe they did before my sister was born, but afterwards, it was all about her. They didn't even ask me about school until parent-teacher conferences came up. I graduated with a B and C average, and after my graduation, my parents just took me to some place where my sister would always have more fun than me, even though the trip was supposed to be for me. On my 18th birthday in July though, things really boiled to the surface. Even though it was my 18th birthday, it still didn't feel like it was all about me. I hoped to God that we were going to my favorite restaurant for once, but no, they had the party at the local knockoff Chuck E. Cheese, which is the only place like it nearby to us. So it was the de facto celebratory destination whenever anything big was achieved, including my high school graduation. I did say to them that it was a place that my sister would enjoy much more than me. I was surrounded by kids half my age having parties, and I was so bored with nothing to do but eat mediocre pizza and play claw machines and dated arcade games for tickets to cheaply made prizes that brought me no joy. Then, when it was time for cake, my parents came out with one that was pink with white flowers on it. Sure, it had my name on it, but it was very obviously not a boy's cake, and there were only 10 candles. My parents lit the candles and set them right in front of my sister to blow out. That's when it finally happened. I had this mental moment of all the pent-up hate mentally flashing before me, and then I started ugly crying. I, an 18-year-old boy, was crying in front of the whole family. Everyone was so shocked that time seemed to just freeze. I got up and all the stuff I'd been holding in for the past 8 years just spilled out like word vomit. The entire family got to witness this event, and when it was finally over, I just walked outside to sit by the family car. Several relatives trailed out after me to say they were so sorry and that they didn't know about the pink cake because my parents kept it covered till it was served. I said it didn't matter that they didn't know. They all sat back and watched as my life was taken over by Little Miss Sunshine for the past 8 years. I had no real birthdays or celebrations of my own. They were all about her. And then on the biggest birthday of my life, they all expected me to just smile and nod, like always, while they handed my sister a cake that was entirely meant for her when it wasn't even her birthday. Some of them started giving me apologies, but they made the excuse that all this time they just thought I was okay with it because my parents said I was. I told them I was never okay with it, and my parents forced it on me every year till I just pretended to accept it. I then spread my arms out, motioning around me, and said, "Look at where we are. Does it look like the place I wanted to celebrate my graduation and 18th birthday? No one even tried to stick up for me all this time. I'm just the other kid while my sister gets everything. I didn't even get to have any of my friends there because my parents stopped letting me invite them long ago after they tried to voice their opinions over my sister getting to blow out my candles. There are 365 days a year, and was it really so bad to just want one that was about me and not her? Instead, I'm treated like the greedy, entitled brat for wanting my own birthday." Then I just went back to ugly crying. My father came back outside by that point to yell at me for making such a huge scene. Because my mother was crying too, my sister was upset because I ruined her moment, and now everybody in there who saw this thinks that they're bad parents. I ended up yelling at him that they are bad parents, and he should know exactly why. Well, after I said that, the rest of the family descended on him like a pack of wolves. Better late than never, I suppose. But I'd never seen anything like it before. My father was practically backed up to the restaurant front door, and then most of the crowd flooded back inside with him to have it out with my mother too. My grandparents stayed with me and apologized for having their eyes shut for so long. I don't know what was said to my parents at the restaurant, but it was roughly a half an hour before they came back out, and when they did, they looked incredibly defeated. My mother was still sniffling after crying so hard, and neither of my parents could look me in the eyes. They both awkwardly apologized for what they did, and then offered to redo the party elsewhere. But that wasn't really enough for the crowd. One of my uncles scoffed rather loudly in the crowd, and my parents said that they would never let my little sister blow out my candles again, or give her presents on my birthday, or make any part of it about her. There was then another scoff, and my parents also apologized for getting a cake that was obviously not meant for me, and that they just felt like I wasn't worried about cake anymore at my age. And oh boy, was that the wrong thing to say. I became furious all over again and yelled at them again that my age was irrelevant. They literally gave my birthday to my sister and had no good reason as to why, and they knew it. Then I said there was no point in redoing the party because it was way too late. They quite clearly show that I mean nothing to them. They ruined 8 years of my life till I became an adult. What future birthdays with them could I possibly look forward to? Well, my father started to get angry at me for saying that, but when the entire family yelled at him, he shut up. My grandfather told him I'm exactly right, and there's no possible way they can undo the damage done now. He said my parents were awful people. They played favorites and treated me like the black sheep ever since my sister was born. And what's more, they were all awful themselves because they just let it happen too. And I am owed far more than an apology. I was owed my life back. My mother broke down again and tried to come closer to me while crying my name and apologizing, but I refused to let her anywhere near me, and half the family body blocked them from getting closer. I just said I couldn't take this anymore, and I started to walk away. One of my aunts chased me down and brought me back. I could hear multiple family members yelling and cussing at my parents over what had happened, but I was so upset, I couldn't even feel happy for any bit of justice after all of this. Also, where was my sister when all this was going on? She was still in the restaurant all by herself, eating cake and ripping open presents that were there for me. And if anyone was wondering, yes, my parents served her some cake after I cried and walked out. You'd think doing that wouldn't be their primary focus in the moment, but they were called out on it later. My grandparents got me to calm down and sit in their old minivan while everyone else cleared out the party. My sister threw a huge temper tantrum after being caught opening my presents, one of which was a brand new smartphone, and she threw it against the wall and broke it because she wasn't allowed to keep it. She literally just got a brand new phone on her own birthday a few months earlier. I ended up being so upset that I was ranting that I never wanted to celebrate my birthday again, and my grandparents let me stay the night over at their house. When I came home, I still didn't speak to my my parents. My mother just kept crying because I refused to talk to her, and my father was just as closed-mouthed to me as I was to him. The following weekend, my grandparents convinced me to go with them out to dinner, and when we got there, I was surprised to find a whole new party waiting for me. My own parents were there, and they had the "don't hate us" smiles plastered on their face the entire time. There was a big chocolate cake with 18 candles on it, and there was even a banner with my name on it. They called it my happy belated birthday graduation party because I didn't really get either this year. I did kind of have to pretend to be happy, but one good party doesn't undo 8 years of favoritism or even make a dent in it, really. And where was my sister? She was sitting at the table with her arms folded and her lip curled because it wasn't all about her like it used to be. And rather than saying happy birthday for me, they just sang an alternate version called Happy Day. Then, as soon as I blew out the candles, my sister screamed. I mean an ear-bleeding, loud little girl scream. My parents had to rush her out and then bring her back in later, looking more upset than ever. She quietly pouted in her seat for the rest of the party. I did still get a new smartphone as well, and my sister got hers taken away, among other things that she did at the prior party. But the smartphone wasn't all. The whole family had chipped in and gotten me a car. It was just an old white Volvo, but I loved it the moment I laid eyes on it. My grandfather knows a thing or two about cars and fixed it up himself. I was so happy, but my sister clearly was not, because she let out another one of those screams. She started having a massive temper tantrum and demanded a car of her own. My mother had to take her into the bathroom, and they didn't come out for a while. My father just went back to looking defeated. My sister had effectively ruined their attempt at trying to look good in front of the whole family. Multiple family members also had strong words from my parents that my sister was acting that way because they raised her to be such a princess spoiled brat. I obviously started driving the car around right away, but only days later, my sister actually vandalized the car by taking a hammer and breaking 2 of the side windows and cracking the windshield to the point that the car was undrivable. My parents managed to stop her before she did any more damage, but she screamed like a maniac when they grabbed her and took the hammer away, then tried to bite them as a result. And after that, everyone was furious with my sister, especially my grandparents, because my grandfather had put so much work into that car, and my sister ruined it while having a massive temper tantrum. My grandparents had spoiled my sister so badly that she couldn't mentally comprehend that I could have something that she could not, and several other family members laid into my parents about how they were setting my sister up for failure by making her an entitled brat that expects the world to be given to her, and she's going to have a terrible adult life because they won't put their foot down and teach her some respect. Well, her actions didn't go unpunished. My sister was grounded for the rest of the summer, and effective of the new school year, she was sent to a boarding school. My mother cried like a baby about it too, but my father had to be adamant that it was the only way to start undoing the damage that they had done. Yes, they fully acknowledged that they are at fault. I mean, it was kind of hard for them not to, since no one sided with them at all. My sister is absolutely miserable at that school. She hates the clothes, she hates the rules, and she's been lying almost constantly. But with the cameras almost everywhere now, she's not getting away with any of it. Our parents tried to visit her a few times, but she just screamed at them for putting her in that place. From what I hear, this may just be her school life until she's 18 years old. My parents did thankfully pay to fix my car. They had an auto glass company replace the windows and windshield, and it looks like it just did before. In August, my father came to me and said that if I was interested, he found me a job working for a friend, but it was 40 miles away, so I would need to move out of my parents' house unless I wanted to commute. But you know what? I was all for moving. Finding a first apartment wasn't so easy though. I had to get approved for a credit card just to get accepted for a studio, but I got it, and I have been living where I am now since September. My parents keep trying to contact me, but I rarely speak to them. Anytime we do speak, I just feel awkward and uncomfortable. My grandfather has suggested that they simply don't want to acknowledge how badly they failed as parents, and trying to get me to forgive them will make them feel better about themselves or something like that. But I'm not going to forgive them, not anytime soon at least. I'm finally happy and away from them, and now they've got nothing. They don't have me, and they don't have my sister, and my parents had to take more hours at work because boarding school for my sister is not cheap, nor can I imagine was the party they had thrown for me, or the repairs for my car. Empty house, angry relatives, and the only thing they have left is their work. Feels like incredible misery to me, and I don't take delight in it, but it is the result of their own actions after all. So you know what? They had it coming. This story is unbelievably heartbreaking. How ridiculous can these parents possibly be? They They quite literally revolved their entire life around this one daughter and completely forgot about their son. They allowed this spoiled child to basically run this house, and if anything, that child raised those parents, not the other way around. And that is absolutely unacceptable. I mean, what were they thinking treating someone like that? It's not fair, it's absolutely disgusting behavior, and I am so glad this original poster got away from their family, more specifically their parents. It's also fantastic to see that his extended family stepped up to the plate and supported him exactly when he needed the help. And this was all because his parents failed him completely and entirely. But the story did have a fantastic ending, and I really hope that the original poster is able to find happiness and peace. And hopefully they never have to deal with their parents ever again, because they honestly don't sound like good people, and this original poster does not need that kind of energy in their life. My entitled aunt and her family are trying to use my parents' address just so they can get some low-income housing, despite the fact that they can definitely afford to buy a house. Here's what happened. So my dad's siblings and their families immigrated to the US 4 to 5 years ago. My dad applied for them and paid all the associated fees related to the application. Once they got here, he helped them find housing, as well as find jobs, and get into schools the school-age kids. Despite doing all of that, his siblings basically acted as if he didn't do anything for them. Not only that, they kissed up to my dad's younger brother, who was already in the US. They thought they didn't need my dad's help, and the younger brother would help them instead. The younger brother actually ended up screwing a few of them over, which is a decent story in and of itself. But about 3 weeks ago, one of my aunts and her oldest son by the name of Kay asked my parents to use their address as part of their application for low-income housing in the city my parents live in. My dad said they can use the address, but he won't be putting their names on any sort of utilities. My aunt and Kay said that my parents should help family, but my dad told them that he had done enough for them already. My aunt and Kay came over again earlier this week. This time, they brought a housing application where they wanted my dad to say he was my aunt's landlord. Kay told my dad to just sign it and that he would fill out the rest, which is just super shady behavior. My dad once again told them no. My mom asked Kay why they are applying for low-income housing instead of just buying a home. Based off of some previous conversations, they definitely have enough money for a down payment. Kay works as an engineer and 2 other people in the family work, so combined they have a decent income. Kay said he doesn't want to, because then he would have to get a loan and pay interest, which is against his religion. And while this is true, my mom did point out how Kay and my aunt were lying, which is also something that wouldn't be good for their religion. Not only are they trying to lie about where they live, but they are also lying about their situation. The application would just have my aunt, her husband, and one of her daughters. However, Kay would live there too, and he makes enough to disqualify them completely. My aunt and Kay ended up leaving, with Kay apparently telling my parents to just rip up the application since they are choosing to be selfish and not help out their family. As usual, my dad's side of the family only thinks about themselves and have a short-term memory on the time and money that we already spent on them. How gross and entitled do you have to be to go to family and not only demand that they sign some form without explaining what you're gonna do with it, but also basically lying to the government about your housing and financial situation? They would be disqualified so quickly for lying on this form and basically be kicked out of their house, all because this K guy doesn't want to pay some kind of mortgage loan, despite the fact that he's an engineer and he can definitely pay for it. Really scummy behavior overall. And it also really leaves a bad taste in the mouth of the original poster that they were being so mean to their dad, all while trying to justify their actions based on their religious ideologies, which is honestly such a toxic thing to do in my opinion. So good for the dad for putting his foot down and saying, no, you're not going to use my name or my address for your low-income housing that you definitely don't need. If anything, it's time for these people to step up and actually practice what they preach, instead of trying to fraud the federal government just to try and get some cheap housing. An entitled jerk demands that I give a photo shoot for free, despite the fact that this would normally cost me $900. And after trying to negotiate a higher price, just so I can get my money's worth, this entitled jerk freaks out on me and calls me some terrible names. Here's what happened. So I'm an amateur photographer that photographs events for a couple $100 since I still am a student. One of my friends suggested a person who was looking for a photographer for his sister's baby shower in Austin, Texas, which is about 4.5 hours away from me. I contacted this guy, we'll call him Jack, that's not his real name, asking if he was still looking for a photographer. He said yes and asked me for a quote. I said I usually charge $100 an hour with about 20 to 25 pictures an hour along with edits, but since it would be a 6-hour event with several dance dance performances, skits, and games, a 9-hour drive to and from this event, plus accommodations, since it will be pretty late to drive back, and the fact that he needs a videographer along with me as a photographer, as he doesn't want me to go back and forth, I ended up asking for about $150 an hour. So the grand total for this event would be about $900, and this would include everything that I mentioned above. He asked me if I was a professional photographer, and I told him not exactly, but I have been doing this for 6 years, and I am pretty good at editing pictures. I sent him my portfolio of both raw and edited pictures, which takes, by the way, a minimum of about 2 hours per 10 pictures. All this because I'm not super fluent at Photoshop. Jack asked if he could call me in a few hours and then hung up. Fast forward to a few hours later, and he called me back and said that he really loves my portfolio, but he really can't pay more than $500, and that even $500 is too much, because according to him, photography is easy, and anybody with a smartphone can be good at photography. I clarified, saying I will be taking pictures with my camera and not a smartphone, and what I am asking is not too much, considering he is getting 2 people for 6 hours for the price of 1, not to mention the other factors included. At this point, Jack started arguing that he is doing me a favor by even considering $500, since this would bring me exposure and I am not even a professional photographer. I told him that if I were at a local event, I'd love to do it for $75 an hour. He said it is local since it's within state lines, and it's just a mere 4-hour drive away. He also said there are professional photographers charging only $200 for a 6-hour event. I told him to give me some time to see if I could reduce the price by cutting any cost on my end. I tried to negotiate with him and told him that I will do it for $500 as I am in college and I really need some extra money. But that's when everything changed all of the sudden. He suddenly decided that he was going to refuse me saying that I would do this for $500. He then said that I need to understand that he's just trying to get a gift for his sister with eternal memories, and that I should honestly just do it for free, as I didn't take up the offer before. By the way, only 20 minutes have passed, which is really not that much time to negotiate anything else. After I heard that, I was honestly appalled, and so I told him that I would not be doing that. And it was at that point that he called me a jerk and said my pictures weren't even that good, which honestly really hurt my feelings. Fast forward to 2 days later, and he actually had the gall to call me back again and said that he is willing to pay me $200 for a 6-hour event, as that's the price that professionals charge in the city of Austin. I told him no again, because my friend wants to cancel, as he's not getting paid enough to take video, and it's a waste of an entire weekend for absolutely no money. He then got super upset, called me a bunch of childish names, and hung up the phone. And honestly, I think I'm kinda happy that he did, because I probably dodged a massive jerk. How unbelievably entitled do you have to be to try and not only reduce and undercut the price that this person's trying to give them, but then basically imply that their payment should be exposure? That's literally such a disgusting thing to say to somebody who's taking time out of their busy college schedule just to try and make some cash on the side. And that's such an insulting thing to say as well, because exposure doesn't pay for the bills, and it would literally do nothing in a situation like this. Like, this is just some stupid baby shower, like, come on. So good for the original poster for sticking to their values and saying straight up that no, they are worth much more than that, because this entitled jerk sounds incredibly toxic, and I can't imagine traveling for 4+ hours just to go there and deal with him all day. That would have been an absolute nightmare. An entitled Karen refuses to tip me at a restaurant I worked at, but I bided my time and I eventually got revenge at my new job, and this lady never saw it coming. Here's what happened. So I used to work at a horrible Mexican restaurant, and by horrible, I mean horribly managed. The manager was a penny pincher, didn't care if it was at the expense of someone else. This was one of the only restaurants where I would double drop checks, and even go as far as to teach the other servers, because this owner was always trying to give us the garbage end of the stick. I hated him, and I have never hated anyone more in my entire life. Because he was always trying to save money, he would hire as little people as possible. No expo, no food prep, no bussers, not even a manager who could speak English. Imagine working at a restaurant where as a server you had to translate guest complaints to a manager, so you can already imagine how upset guests were, either because of slow service or because of cold food. Well, one day I got a guest who was absolutely unbearable. She ticked off every box of what a Karen is before the term even existed. Her food came out cold and I apologized and told her that I'd get her fresh, warm food, and she seemed patient and polite, and even told me that she knows it's not my fault and to not worry as it would not affect my tip. So much to my surprise, when she does leave after her her meal, she leaves me a few pennies as a tip. I was furious and I ran outside. I got her attention and I told her, "Here, ma'am, you forgot your change. If it was a tip, I don't want it. Have a good day." She left and other guests apologized on her behalf for being such an absolute jerk. One of the guests even told me that as I was leaving to get her a new plate, this entitled Karen was saying to her friend behind my back that she's not going to tip me anything and that she is going to save her money for Valentine's Day, which is a perfect example of wasted resources on a human being. Fast forward maybe 3 months, and I'm working at Walmart now as a cashier. Back then, you could say to the cashier you have a particular coupon, and we could redeem it even if they didn't have a copy of it on hand. I don't know if this was countrywide, but it was done pretty frequently at the Walmart I worked at for obvious reasons. I know for sure this practice isn't done anymore, or maybe not as much. And guess what? The same entitled Karen I served prior shows up in my cash out lane and has loads of the same product. She was trying to redeem coupons she didn't have on hand, and my opportunity for petty revenge finally presented itself. And God, it felt so good seeing her getting really upset because I would not budge on redeeming non-existent coupons. The conversation went something like this. When she tried to redeem these coupons, she says something like,
They let me do it all the time, please.
But I responded back to her by saying, "No, sorry ma'am, I cannot do that, nor will I do that. I will be breaking the rules to do this, and I'm not about to lose my job over it." She then said,
You can't even redeem this coupon that will only save me a couple of cents?
and after I told her no again, she then started getting incredibly upset. She said,
I went through a lot of trouble to get these groceries in my cart, and now I can't do anything with them.
She was still super upset, but honestly, I did not care. I told her, "Nope, sorry ma'am, I need physical coupons." She ended up paying for everything in full. So I think if anything, the lesson learned here is to just be nice to customer service, because a lot of them will go above and beyond just to help you out if you show just some kind of decency. You love to see some petty revenge go towards an entitled Karen that absolutely deserves it. This absolute entitled Karen only tipped a few pennies to this poor server, and as a result, they missed out on a huge part of their wage. And this was after they promised that the problems they were having in the restaurant would not affect their tip. I mean, that is such toxic behavior. But you know what? Karma has a wonderful way of coming right back around. So to watch this lady not get her way and have to pay for everything in full truly is a satisfying resolution to someone acting so entitled. My ex-husband refuses to pay the balance on the iPhone that I got him, and so as a result, I got some revenge. Here's what happened. So after previously leaving me with his $800 iPhone balance and refusing to pick it up, I shut my ex-husband's phone off, since I'm technically the owner of it. I was very kind in turning it back on for him after he paid me the money that he owed me from similar situations. However, the agreement was that he would pay me $120 on Friday, all because that was the day that he said he got paid, in order to keep using the phone that belongs to me. The Friday that he was supposed to pay me, I sent him a text reminder, to which he responded, Yup, I'm on it. So I sent him my Cash App tag. Approximately 30 minutes later, I offered to provide him with an additional 10 minutes to send the freaking money over before I had to shut down the phone again. So he sent the money over an hour later, give or take a few minutes. But by that time, I had already shut off the phone. Once he realized that it had been shut off, he created a 3-way call with me, as well as with him and a representative from the cellular company. He then stated that if the representative could not transfer the remaining balance minus the $120 over to his account during that phone call, he was canceling his service, giving up on the phone number, and giving me the phone back so I could sell it and recoup some of the money that he owed me, if not all of it, hopefully. Unfortunately, things did not go as planned, as in the end, the balance could not be transferred over, and my ex-husband said that he was giving me the phone back when he picked up our son from me later that day. But approximately 30 minutes before I expected him to pick up our son, he called me from a new number and told me that he no longer had the phone and that he obtained a government phone from his mother. He said that he was not willing to tell me any more information and was just saying that he no longer had the iPhone and that I'm still stuck making payments on it. He even had the audacity to mistakenly call me his girlfriend's name during his rant when he said, "You know what? It's gone. You can either accept that or not." The police won't even make a police report because nothing is finalized with the divorce. But despite that, I have my ex-husband convinced that he is facing theft charges, and given his history of doing some nefarious things, as well as having multiple run-ins with the law, he just wants me to drop the charges. So I milked an additional $50 out of him to put towards the remaining $600 that he still owes owes towards that stupid phone. And I don't expect this to last forever, because I suppose that this will only work as long as he remains stupid. But I'm still pretty upset about the whole ordeal. So as a bit of petty revenge, I've been taking Sharpies with me to bars and gas stations. And I've been scribbling his new government phone number from his mom in the men's stalls with a note in curly feminine writing, asking whoever reads it that they should call me for a good time. And I honestly don't regret it. Yeah, that's pretty messed up that your ex-husband basically, in my opinion, probably sold that phone off and said, okay, well, too bad, now you gotta pay for it. So I'm really sorry that you have to deal with an absolute moron of an ex-husband. Or at least soon to be, because it sounds like the divorce hasn't happened yet. I think if anything, you might be able to call your cell company and ask them to maybe turn off the phone again and tell them that your soon-to-be ex-husband lost it or possibly sold it off just so he wouldn't have to have any kind of payments towards it anymore. I'm not sure if they can do anything about that, but if anything, I'm sure they could at least brick the phone so that whoever has it can no longer access it. And there might even be a thing where they can just replace the phone and possibly send you a new one. I'm not sure of the details of that. You honestly gotta call your cell company. But hopefully that gets worked out, because unfortunately, you're gonna be stuck dealing with this guy for a long, long time. And hopefully for the sake of your son, he's at least decent and amicable, just so he can have a good life growing up. I told my girlfriend that we're moving to another state, and she's not giving me a straight answer of if she wants to come along with me. And at this point, I don't know what to do. I just got a job promotion this past week. It's a higher pay, but I have to move from Georgia to California in 2 months. I'm currently in a pretty serious relationship with my girlfriend. We're both 23 years old, and we met in college. We've also been official for a year and a half. I told her recently about the news and told her to really think hard about this situation. She told me that she's never lived with a man before, and she's also never left Georgia before either. So considering all that, she's obviously very hesitant, but she said that she will think carefully about it. I then gave her some reassurance and told her to take her time because it is a big change. She responded by saying that she has so many things to think about and that her moving would mean that she would no longer live with her brother, who helps her out a lot. I offered to help find a roommate, and she replied that she will think very hard about this. I had reached out to her a few days later and checked in to see if she's been thinking about it, hoping to prompt more conversations and concerns about what's going on, as well as to gauge her overall interest in even moving. But she didn't give me a straight answer at all. At this point, I'm getting a bit frustrated. I told her to let me know if it was a no when I first presented the news to her, but she is not really communicating with me on this. I'm starting to have doubts if she's even serious about the relationship at this point. I know that's ridiculous, but all she needs to do is ask me for more time instead of just dodging my questions. Her initial response seems to be interested but scared, and it made me even think of what is keeping her here in Georgia in the first place. I want to give her time and not be pushy, but I realize it's only been 72 hours since I asked her. But that's enough time to at least give me a direction of yes or no. Like, she's not even asking more questions. Do I need to give her more time? I know I told her to take her time, and I want her to, but I sort of need an answer relatively soon because I need to plan if I'm moving into a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom apartment, amongst other things associated with the move. Part of me thinks that her answer was yes, but first let me think this over. At least that's how I took it initially, but now that she's not following up, I honestly don't know what's going on. And at this point, I don't know what to do. It sounds like the original poster is being incredibly pushy. I mean, you're asking her to move away thousands of miles across the country, and you then pop back in after 3 days and say, hey, so what do you think? You want to go? Like, that's obnoxious in my opinion. And I really think the original poster needs to take a step back. You said give her time. Well, then give her time. Let her think this through. She probably has friends and family and all sorts of people all in Georgia literally her entire life, most likely. You're asking her to uproot her entire life and go out to California with you. And that, in my opinion, takes a lot more than just 3 days to think about. So seriously, take a step back, give her some time to breathe, and just take this at her pace. Because this is not an easy decision to make. And in my opinion, I think you're being just a little too pushy. Today, I messed up by getting scammed out of $2,000, and I feel so stupid and I can't believe it. Here's what happened. So I'm a truck driver, and last night, as the title suggests, I got scammed out of $2,000. It happened at a gas station right before Las Vegas. I parked there to go to sleep and shut down for the night. I went down from my truck to walk around and stretch my legs a little bit. As I was walking around, a black SUV pulled up right next to me, and a rich-looking man rolled down his window in a panic. He looked desperate, and his wife was in the backseat crying with her 2 kids. He was asking for help because his wife's purse got stolen in Vegas, and it had all their things in it, like money and their passports. I saw how distraught this guy was acting, so I took $30 from my wallet, and I was going to give it to him just to help out. He pleaded with me that he needed more because he was heading heading to San Francisco, so he offered his necklace and gold ring. I refused and I told him to just take the $30 so I could go back to my truck and rest. He kept begging me and offering his jewelry, and at this point I started to feel bad for the guy, so I went to my truck and I got $100. I was going to give this guy $130 for free, and I told him again and again, I don't want his jewelry. I'm literally just trying to help his family. He said he cannot take it for free and offered his jewelry still, but said he would need more money for it. This is when I should have just walked away. Call me foolish and naive, but I just wanted this guy to go away so I could rest. So I figured that if I just gave him like $300, I wouldn't feel guilty taking the jewelry and he could just have enough money to make it to San Francisco. But at this point, he kept pleading and begging and adding more jewelry, and before I knew it, I was giving this guy about $750. Then his wife starts crying more and saying that they need more money for new passports and how it's $300 per person and that there's 4 of them in total. The guy offered the last bit of jewelry that he had, which was a Rolex watch that he said cost tens of thousands of dollars. It was at this point that I believed that my greed got a hold of me, because this guy's telling me that he's a rich guy from Dubai and he doesn't care how much the jewelry costs. He's just desperate for cash so they can make it to San Francisco and then get back to Dubai. I don't know much about jewelry, so I thought that if I just give this guy $1,200 for his Rolex watch that I assume was real because he's Mr. Big Shot from Dubai, I could sell the jewelry and get my money back at the very least. So in total, I gave this guy just under $2,000 for 2 gold necklaces, 1 gold ring, and a Rolex watch. I was skeptical, of course, but like I said, I think my greed was clouding my judgment. Once I gave him the money, he began thanking me so much and started offering up a prayer and all this show and tell. He hopped back into his SUV and drove off. I watched him drive off all the way till he went to the freeway, and that's when I realized something. This guy took the freeway entrance going back to Vegas, and that's when my stomach turned, and I knew instantly that I just got lied to. I mean, after all, his whole story was about how he needed to get some money so he could get back to San Francisco. I walked back to my truck, and I laid down trying to process what just happened. I was staring at the jewelry, and then I looked up online of how I could tell if an 18-karat gold necklace was fake, and that's when I saw a news video on YouTube about people getting scammed on the road by some guy from Dubai offering their jewelry for money. The news described exactly what I just went through, and that the jewelry these scammers were using was obviously fake. I feel like a complete idiot, and I can't believe how naive I was to fall for this scam. I never thought I would fall for something like this, especially since I watch scam videos all the time online. So needless to say, I feel like a complete idiot. Yeah, I would feel pretty stupid too. You just wasted $2,000 on fake items. And the fact that this trucker carries around $2,000 with them on the road is not only super irresponsible, but also super dangerous. I'm pretty sure truckers deal with people trying to rob them like all the time. Why would you carry that much cash on you? And to top it all off, he got scammed by these people that have been scamming people all over Vegas. In my opinion, if someone comes up to you in the parking lot in Vegas, it's definitely not the best time to engage with them. I mean, personally, that's my rule for pretty much anywhere I go. My parents also taught me that if it's too good to be true, then it probably is, so you've got to be careful. And this is a perfect example of that, because no one in their right mind would start throwing jewelry out the window just so they could try and get back to San Francisco. I mean, that's craziness. And the fact that this guy was so loaded and rich is another hole in this guy's plan. I mean, if he's that much of a big shot, then he can clearly call somebody to help him out, right? Like, he's definitely got to have some kind of connections with Vegas or something like that, or at least somebody he can call to get some money to fly home. It all seriously is super suspicious, and it's really unfortunate that this guy fell for this. So next time you're in a parking lot and someone comes up to you asking for money, definitely think twice before engaging, because you very well could end up like this guy and lose $2,000 to some fake jewelry. My entitled brother sells all of my stuff, and when I confronted him about this, my parents actually defended him. So now I'm suing him. Here's what happened. I am 23 years old, and I am a very reserved person. I don't like to interact with other people, but I don't hate anyone. I have never been angry with a person because I assume that if you don't interfere with my life, everything is fine. Now, I have always been very close to my brother, even though he is very different from me, and we have always shared our stuff since birth. Recently, he has started to become an extremely bossy person at the house, with his parents buying him everything he wants, despite his catastrophic grades. He smokes, he drinks, and starts to force me to be mainly a cab driver for him. This puts a very bad atmosphere in the house, with my mother yelling at him a lot. Fortunately, on my end, I bought my dream computer after working working incredibly hard. And every night, I lock myself in my room and I spend my time coding, or in some cases playing video games. And you know what? I will happily take this quiet time, as this is right in between my very tiring engineering studies, as well as the atmosphere at home, which can be very intense. Fast forward, and I had a 6-month internship in a big city in another country. And at the beginning of the internship, I love it because I've never left my small city. It was very difficult to live alone in an apartment, but after a few weeks, I really adapted, which really surprised me. I enjoy going out with people now, I feel more confident, and I even changed my clothing style to be more adult, and I really loved it. Another perk is that I've started working out since I don't have my computer in my spare time. At the end of my internship, I go back home and I find the same atmosphere as before, and nobody has noticed my changes in appearance. But I just ignore this, and when I arrive at night, I only want to find my computer to avoid the tense atmosphere and the screams that come along with this house. But that is when I was horrified to find out that my computer was not in my room. So I asked my mother, and she then tells me something that blows my mind. She tells me that my brother sold it, and I honestly could not be more upset by this news. I think at that point my brain just paused, and it was 10 seconds before I asked my mom if she was joking or not. She says no, and I honestly start to see red. I teleport to my brother's room and ask him why. He then tells me that he sold my computer to buy sneakers and clothes, and I ask him again, explaining this time that I want to know why he sold my computer, because I didn't give him the right to do it, and that I always use it for work. At this point, he starts laughing at me and tells me that I can buy another one, and that the money that he got from it was nothing to me. He then tells me that he sold my computer for $1,000, and when I heard that, I just about lost it, because that computer is worth so much more than that. Normally, I would have run away to my room to swear, but here I got angry, and I grabbed his laptop and destroyed it on the floor. The noise brings back my parents, and my brother yells at me, asking me what happened to me. I yell and explain that he had no right, and that he is an absolute jerk for doing that. I explain that I needed that for work and that it was mine. My father then comes in and angrily tells me to keep my voice down and says that it's just a computer. I told him with all my anger to shut up and that he should realize that it is not normal to steal people's things. I then leave because even my parents do not support me, and after that I go to the police station to file a complaint. As the value of my computer exceeds $1,000, my brother is at risk of going to prison. My parents put pressure on me to drop the lawsuit against my brother, but I don't want to, and I don't want to be with them anymore, since they consider me less than nothing. And so fast forward, and we go ahead with the proceedings, and my brother, as a result, must give me back close to $5,000, including having to pay back my lawyer that I hired for this case. Because everything went down, my whole family hates me, and I have now cut ties with everyone. I am now living with my cousin, and I'm about to graduate, so I will soon have a job. I am in a hurry to leave and not see my family ever again, which doesn't bother me either, because the way they considered me was just unacceptable, and I don't think I was wrong. I feel completely justified taking my brother to court and winning, and I don't regret it in the slightest. That is fantastic that the original poster was able to get the money back so that they could buy their computer. The original poster went on to say that the computer was actually worth about $5,000, so they clearly had some serious setup that they did not want to try and replace on their own. So good for them for getting their money back and setting things right, because otherwise their brother could just get away with more stuff like this, and it would not be fair for the next person who has their stuff sold off by this entitled brother who would not have known that this is not a good thing to do. My friend and I have been unknowingly seeing the same person, and at this point I don't know if I should just walk away or what I should do. I have been seeing a man by the name of John for approximately 6 weeks. That is not his real name. We matched on a dating app, but I also knew him from the occasional hallway greeting at work. We've been spending some quality time together since the first date and have hung out at least once a week. Several days ago, I found out that my friend by the name of Sarah, also not her real name, has been also seeing him at the same time. They started talking 4 weeks ago, which was 2 weeks into me seeing him. They went on a date 2 weeks ago, and they had plans last week, but Sarah had to cancel. John has been very straightforward about wanting to spend some quality time with her during their texts and conversations. His date plans were an exact mirror of my experience. John and I did not have a conversation about exclusivity. Technically, he did nothing wrong by hooking up with her, but the fact that he used the same formula on her as he did with me really bothers me. I don't like that I was the backup option for the day she couldn't make it, especially since by that point, we'd been on dates without hooking up and have have had conversations that I wouldn't do with a random fling. Sarah and I hung out in a group setting a couple days ago when the whole John ordeal came to light. I texted him as soon as I learned about it. The next day, Sarah and I met and we had a healthy one-on-one conversation about the situation where she disclosed everything despite him asking not to. We decided it would be for the best for both of us to step back because she was developing feelings for him and I was beginning to feel very uncomfortable about things. After John had gotten text messages from each of us, he confessed to Sarah and me that he'd liked me for a while and wanted to pursue more, but was waiting until I was ready and would delete dating apps if I asked. He said he was planning to have a discussion about exclusivity the next time we met. I'm not sure how I should approach this. His interactions with Sarah led me to believe that he was only interested in something casual. If it weren't a close friend, I might be more objective about the situation, but with how things have unfolded, I'm not sure. Is initiating and pursuing some quality time with another person while in the beginning stages of non-exclusively dating someone that you like a red flag? Should I try dating him or commit to backing off? What should I do? I mean, honestly, I'm really surprised that you're even considering still going with this guy. This honestly sounds like a super sketchy situation. And you know what? He was probably in paradise. He literally had 2 women to pick from. And now he's like, oh, hey, I want to get with you instead of Sarah. But like, why would you even want to go with him? He's bargain hunting. Like, come on. He's playing stupid games and it's just really inappropriate. Also, for some context, this guy is almost 10 years older than Sarah and this original poster. Like, he clearly knows what he's doing, but I don't think you do. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would walk away. This guy is just toying with you and he's just trying to play both of you. And worst of all, he's old enough to know better. So it's time to find somebody who's actually going to be loyal and want to be with you specifically and not just play around on the market just to try and find another woman that he can spend some quality time with. My parents hate my boyfriend and I don't know how to move forward or what to do. My boyfriend and I are both 21 years old and we have been dating for a year, but have known each other and each other's families for 10 plus years. His mom was a mentor of mine and my family adored him. My parents are extremely protective and did not allow me to do much with anyone. With boys, they wanted a chaperone and I could not text, call, or be with them alone. But because they knew him, they let those rules go. When we started hanging out, many people in our church advised my parents to not let me get involved with him and to not trust him. He had a rough past and was always getting in trouble. They let us hang out for a couple of months, but things slowly got bad. He and I became each other's best friends, and we told each other everything. He told me about his troubles in high school and friend issues. He had left his friend group because of drama and was trying to be better himself. I told him how little time for myself I got, how I had basically no life outside my home, and wanted to move out by the end of summer. We hung out for 3 months without the chaperone rules, but we were still super respectful of my parents, and we would not be in a room or at home alone together. One instance, we were at a drive-in movie that didn't finish till after midnight, which was approved with no curfew, and my mom wasn't going to be home until 2 a.m. We stopped at the beach to talk for a while, cause we had time, and then started the 45-minute drive back home. On our way back, I got a call from my mom freaking out because I was not home. I explained what happened and how I thought that she would be back after I got home. This was unacceptable, and they accused us of being intimate with each other and that we were apparently lying about it. At that point, I liked someone else, and he had no intentions towards me. They said it was deceitful and untrustworthy. After that, we were never allowed to be without an approved chaperone again, and now I had a 9 p.m. curfew. This resulted in a massive argument between my parents and me. They said they lost all trust in me, and they are trying to protect me from things I don't even know about. Word for word, they said, "You can never know what could happen. Things that you don't even know about. We can tell you from experience, there are things you just cannot fathom." I asked them to explain these things so I could be better prepared, and they would not tell me because they valued my innocence. Over the next month, we tried to earn that trust back, but we could not get through to them. I got super depressed, I had nightmares so bad, and I barely slept, and I almost left the state just to start over with my life. But my boyfriend helped me with so much. He was kind, caring, gentle. He encouraged me that things would get better, and he is the main reason why I stuck around. I got better, we got closer, and we tried so hard to stay on good terms with my parents, but it honestly wasn't easy. Home life for me was messy and toxic. I am the oldest of 6, and the majority caretaker of the home, and I work full-time. I was not treated very well, and I wanted out. My plan was to move out by the end of the summer, but then my boyfriend asked my parents parents for permission to officially start dating me and to give me a promise ring. We started dating and my parents got even more strict, which left no room for me to ask if I can move out, so I just stayed. 2 months later, I got into another massive argument with them over a miscommunication, and my dad kicks me out. I go to stay with a friend, and my mom is begging me to come back home. My boyfriend wanted nothing to do with the argument and wanted to stay out of it as much as possible, but still was supporting me in making my own decisions without influence. My dad does apologize for kicking me out, and he does respect my decision for much needed space. I come back home for 2 weeks because I got sick and I had found a place to stay. They are not pleased with my decision to move out and were being passive-aggressively supportive. When the day came for me to move, they decided to paint their entire house and told me I couldn't bring friends over to help me move. I moved everything on my own. During this time, they found out that my boyfriend and I had spent some quality time together, and after they found out about that, they were furious. But not with me, they were furious with him. They felt betrayed. My boyfriend promised to protect me, and they felt that he had broken that promise and hated him for it. They were certain it started back on the beach, and I was coerced into it. They would not believe me when I told them that we started 3 months after dating. We didn't even kiss until we were dating, and I had initiated both of those situations. They demanded an apology from him, but never wanted to see him again. During that time, my boyfriend had serious surgery, and he was incapacitated for 4 weeks, and his family had COVID. He was physically unable to go see my parents, but also didn't want to talk to them till they started treating me better. For the next few months, my parents would beg for him to reach out while simultaneously berating him and low-key stalking him, with them having many 3-hour phone calls just to yell at me, telling me I'm throwing my life away and how he would never be good enough for me. The only thing that kept me in contact with them was the younger kids, as well as my boyfriend encouraging me to keep trying. Every time things got better, my boyfriend would go to reach out, but before he could, I'd get a phone call from them and spend the next week as an absolute wreck. This went on for 8 months. When my boyfriend finally reached out and made some actual plans, my parents canceled last minute and went on vacation. The next time he reached out, he got no response. This went on for 4 more months. Now, my parents are saying that they'll never forgive him and want nothing to do with him. When I moved out, my boyfriend had told me that he wanted to propose, but had made a promise to his brother who was engaged that he would not propose until after they had married, and their wedding was set out for a year. That year is now up. He has moved in with me and we want to get married, but not without my parents' permission, so we are in a bit of a tough spot. He wants to make things right with them, and I want them to be involved, but they want absolutely nothing to do with our relationship. They had never told me explicitly that they want us to break up, and personally, if we did break up, then our whole 1.5 years of trouble would be for nothing. I don't want that, and I don't think my parents want that either. They just don't know how to get over what we did. I do not know how to move forward, and I feel stuck and trapped again under my parents' thumb because they are still dictating my life. If he proposes, it would be without their permission, which neither of us wants. But if he doesn't, we may never get married, and we can never make things right. I personally feel like getting married would make our life decisions right, and we can all move on with our life together. I feel like I'm going to be forced just to force them to make a decision about whether they want to be a part of my life or not. But if I do that, I lose the relationship with my siblings and possibly my jobs. Because as another fun fact, we all work together. I'm at a crossroads and I honestly don't know what to do. I think the first thing the original poster needs to realize is that their parents cannot be fixed. They are toxic and they're going to stay toxic. The fact that they've written off your boyfriend right off the bat is absolutely ridiculous. They quite literally have not even given him a chance, and anytime he's tried to reach out and say, hey, let's meet up, they would cancel last second or avoid him, all while still saying, oh, he's a horrible person. Like, that's just really immature. You've tried to reach out, you've tried to do what's right, but they are not meeting you in some kind of middle ground. And that's not fair for you and your boyfriend. I mean, how can they not get the hint? You two literally live together. That's a pretty good litmus test, in my opinion, to see if you actually can stand the person in the first place. So for your parents to still not like him and have some kind of pride about this is really immature. I think if I was in your shoes, I would do what's right for me and my significant other. I would not let your parents dictate what you can and cannot do, because you don't live under their roof anymore. You can make your own decisions. And honestly, in my opinion, I don't think you need their permission to get married. If they want to be involved in your life, they will certainly make the effort. But if this is how they're going to continue to act, then honestly, I don't see this as a big loss. And when it comes to work, if you do decide to go about it this way, you can always find another job. You can easily find another job in your skill set that'll allow you to provide for yourself and support you and your future husband. Because otherwise you are just going to be stuck, just like you said. And I honestly can't think that your life is ever going to be happy if you let your toxic, weird parents dictate what you can and cannot do in your adult life. Today I messed up by not realizing that my microphone was on during an important meeting, and now I'm in deep trouble. To keep the intro short, I'm a sales analyst for a business many people may be familiar with, and I'm at a lot of board meetings as it's the corporate end of things. Lately, it's been a hybrid work environment, so a lot of our meetings are hybrids. So because of this, we're outfitted with microphones just for the occasion. They're little Bluetooth clip-ons, like you'd never notice on your favorite YouTuber. I'll be frank, I hate the company, but they pay the bills. That aside, when you have a bunch of bald eggheads in a room talking numbers for hours, it can get pretty dull. I'm usually very good about this sort of thing, and there's no hitch. Today, however, I just was not having it. We had a board meeting in which a lot of the talk was about if the hybrid full remote workplace was a good idea, and somehow these egg-headed morons landed on no. I heard that part and kind of shrunk in my chair, because the opportunity to be in the comfort of my own home really does balance out how much you dread this job sometimes. I don't give my input on things usually. I tend to just let the executives duke it out, but they genuinely for a moment seemed like they had dropped the ball, and that was strike one. The next subject came up was the pay. Oh, the greatest point of contention. A lot of facilities that the lower tier executive visited were in god-awful disrepair, and if there's anything these folks like to do, it's not taking accountability for giving the workers what they need and clear-cut metrics to achieve. Pay cuts were talked about, and it's convenient that the bar was drawn at my level, Sales Analyst 1, as well as everybody below me. I excused myself and thought I'd left my microphone in the room, but actually I still had it on me as I went to the restroom. I didn't need to use it, thankfully, but I did heavily vent how stupid of a discussion that was. I pointed out how asinine it is that they would cut everyone's pay but their own, alongside calling certain folks by name, a variety of descriptive names, if you know what I mean. While I was in the bathroom, I really went in. That is, until I dropped my microphone. Yeah, it was on me the whole time. I debated hard about going back in. I honestly thought that they would fire me over PA or something, but no, they talked it up in there until I returned, and then they said the following: Miss Original Poster, it's clear you feel very strongly on the matter, given your very colorful expression. What would you suggest we do when the facilities are failing to meet our expectations? And at this moment, a part of me left my soul for just a moment. This is a really good job, and I would hate for what was supposed to be a candid moment in private be something that ends everything. They made it clear that they understand my frustrations and would hear me out, but I did get a bit of chewing out from my superiors, who got secondhand embarrassment from hearing what I had to say, while also throwing in some spineless name-calling to boot. My heap of paperwork is high, and luckily none of it is disciplinary action. I did propose much better alternatives, and I wish I could disclose the brand so the workers could thank me for potentially saving their pockets, but there's no telling if they would listen. I'm still really all shook up from it, and it is probably my greatest blunder in life so far. That sounds like an absolute nightmare. I can't imagine excusing myself from a virtual meeting just to try and vent in my bathroom over something stupid that's going on that's going to affect your bottom line and your paycheck, only for everybody in that boardroom to basically hear exactly what you have to say. I would be unbelievably embarrassed at that situation. But from the sounds of it, it really did kind of work out. It sounds like they took your advice seriously, and you saved a lot of people a lot of money. And to be honest, these top executives probably needed somebody to step in and shake the cage just a little bit, and you just happen to be that person unintentionally. So good for you for at least speaking up, even though you really didn't mean to. It made a world of difference, even if you are slightly traumatized as a result. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. We love and appreciate you so much. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and also check out Am I the Genius? You're not going to regret it. They're fantastic. We love them. Please check them out and give them a sub. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.